Chapter 821. Making Humans Out of Clay. Feng just wanted to give it a try. In the past few years, he had traveled all over the inner world, going to places of extreme yang and extreme yin, but he couldn't find a way to create humans. Apart from that, Feng also tried to use the 5 elements of heaven and earth to create humans. Without exception, all his attempts failed. In the end, he could only pin his hopes on the last of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Eldar used the earth element as its foundation. The earth carried all things and was also classified as the earth element. Therefore, in Feng's opinion, the probability of using the earth element to create humans was very high, so he tried it here. But he had an idea. How to implement it was another problem. He also thought for a long time before he made the action of making humans out of clay. At first, there was nothing. But as more and more clay figurines were created, a strange feeling gradually surged into his mind. That feeling. It made Feng forget about the things around him and only focus on making clay figurines one by one. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, there seemed to be something in the sea, and then a huge wave swept towards the sea. The monstrous sound of the waves. It directly woke Feng up from the state of making humans out of clay. He put down the clay figurine in his hand, then stood up and looked at the surrounding scene. It turned out that unknowingly, there were already a lot of clay figurines, and they could be seen in his eyes. Retracting his gaze from the clay figurines, Feng turned his head to look in the direction of the sea. There was a huge wave there, as if it was covering the sky and the earth, crushing towards this side. That wave was 100 feet high. If it was allowed to crash down, all the clay figurines would be burned under the waves. Seeing this, with a wave of his windbreaker sleeves, endless astral winds blasted out, forcibly shattering the oncoming waves. The waves were shattered. Countless amounts of seawater smashed down, immediately causing a lot of waves. Just as these aftershocks were still coming towards the sea, Feng didn't move at all. Only the aura on his body was emitted, and it blocked all the aftershocks. It was calm for less than a breath's time. The calm surface of the sea suddenly parted, as if a divine weapon had divided the entire surface of the sea. The moment the sea separated, a heaven-shaking dragon roar came from the depths of the sea. In the next moment, a 30,000-meter-long true dragon soared into the sky and circled around. "Where did you come from? How dare you come to my dragon's sea area and act so impudently?" The true dragon spoke in human language, its cold gaze landing on Feng. Ever since he was born, he had been the overlord of this ocean. No living being dared to go against him. This time, he was just playing around in the sea as usual, but a living being had interfered with him. One could imagine how angry the true dragon was. In addition to his previous status, this made him even more arrogant when facing the wind. In the face of questioning, Feng's expression remained the same. He said indifferently, "I am Feng of the human race, and I am creating humans here. If the waves come, they will destroy my work, which is why I am stopping them. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me." Human style? Doubt flashed across the true dragon's eyes, but he didn't pursue the matter further. He didn't know much about the human race. But that didn't stop him from looking at Feng with disdain. "The sea area is where we dragons live. The land within 1,000,000 miles of the sea area is the territory of us dragons. You are a human, and you dare to trespass without my permission. Leave quickly, and I will let you go. Otherwise, I will take you down and fill the sea area with you to suppress the eye of the sea." The true dragon's voice was frighteningly cold. He could sense that Feng wasn't weak. If Feng was willing to leave, the true dragon wouldn't want to waste his energy. But if Feng insisted on not leaving, as the overlord of the sea area, he wouldn't be merciful. Facing the true dragon's tyranny, Feng's expression turned solemn. "I didn't know that the sea area was the territory of the dragons. But this matter concerns the birth of the human race, so I need to stay here for a while. After this matter, I will definitely give you some compensation. I hope you can accommodate me. Either you leave or you die." The true dragon circled above the sea area, his 10,000-meter-long body covering the sky. Under the refraction of the sun, his pale golden scales emitted a dazzling light. In his amber eyes, there was a faint golden color. Along with his anger, the sea's surface, which wasn't calm to begin with, was now swept by wind and waves, causing the entire sea area to shake violently. Waves after waves. They surged towards other areas. Foam stood with his hands behind his back. The aura on his body spread out, isolating all the waves outside. You really won't give me face? Who do you think you are? You don't deserve my respect. The true dragon sneered. He didn't hide his disdain for foam. As the overlord of the sea area for many years, the creatures who were originally in the territory of the dragons were either expelled or completely surrendered to him. There was no one who dared to talk to him with such an attitude. Therefore, the true dragon was very dissatisfied with him. As soon as he finished speaking, the wind on the sea became more and more violent. In the next moment, huge waves rose up, sweeping towards foam like a wild dragon, accompanied by endless dragon roars. Seeing this, Fang's eyes suddenly turned cold. He took a step forward, and the void under his feet rippled. With a simple palm, it seemed to cover the world. The wild dragon formed by the waves was instantly annihilated by a single palm strike. Not only that, the remaining power of the palm continued to suppress the true dragon. Feeling the power of the palm, the true dragon became serious. He slapped out with his claws, forcibly shattering the palm. The two fought. Just by the leakage of the aftershocks, it was as if doomsday had arrived, causing the sky to darken. On the boundless surface of the sea, huge waves surged endlessly. Countless waves surged in all directions, attempting to drown everything. Mountains collapsed, and the earth was submerged. Only the place where the clay figurines were was protected by a layer of mysterious power, preventing them from being affected by the aftershocks. The battle broke out very suddenly, and the commotion was abnormally big. Qin Shijian, who had been observing the creation of the clay figurines, also silently watched the battle. To be honest, when his gaze fell on the sea area, he had already noticed the true dragon in the sea area. However, noticing was one thing. Qin Shijian also didn't expect that the true dragon would stop him at this time. In this regard, he had nothing to say. If the human race wanted to be born, they had to go through a tribulation. Now that the true dragon was stopping them, it could be considered a tribulation. As for whether foam would be a match for the true dragon, Qin Shijian wasn't too worried. Based on the current situation, although the true dragon was powerful, compared to foam, there was still a gap. If the battle continued, there was almost no chance of foam losing. Chapter 8:22. The battle was still ongoing. Both of them were very powerful, and the aftermath spread out, covering thousands of miles of land. Although foam had not been engrossed in cultivation these years, his cultivation had been increasing day by day. Until now, he had already reached the celestial limit. As for the true dragon's strength, it was also at the celestial limit. But in terms of foundation, there was a certain gap between him and foam. In a short period of time, nothing could be seen, but as time passed, the gap widened. Boom! Another collision occurred. The void distorted violently, and the true dragon let out a painful dragon roar. The pale golden scales were actually shattered by Fang's punch, and blood flowed down the broken scales. Then, he fell towards the sea. Foam stepped on the void, his expression stern, and raised his hand to punch out, landing on the true dragon's body. It was fine if he did not attack, but since he really attacked, he had to eliminate all future troubles. Otherwise, when the other party's strength increased in the future, it might cause him a lot of trouble. It could be said that the current foam had the determination to kill the true dragon. That undisguised killing intent. It also made the true dragon feel apprehensive. He wants to kill me! In an instant, the true dragon understood Fang's thoughts, and the alarm in his heart went crazy. Although he was the overlord of the sea, it did not mean that he was not afraid of death. Originally, he dared to be arrogant because he had absolute confidence in his own strength, and disdain for foam. but now, fighting until now. The true dragon also understood how big the gap in strength between the two sides was. If he really wanted to fight to the death, he would definitely die, and Foam would at most suffer some injuries. Losing his life for a small matter was obviously not worth it. With the mentality that where there was life, there was hope. After the true dragon took Feng's punch, he followed the force and fell into the sea, and then escaped into the depths. Want to leave? How can it be so easy? Seeing that the true dragon was about to leave, Foam of course would not let him escape. If he did not completely eliminate this future trouble, it would definitely be a problem in the future. But when he went deep into the sea, the true dragon had completely disappeared. Considering that he was not used to and familiar with the sea, he hesitated for a moment, and then jumped out of the sea, giving up on chasing the true dragon. Back to the sea. He removed the energy barrier that he had set up. All the clay figurines were unharmed in the battle. He looked at the clay figurines in front of him. Foam gave up on making more clay figurines. After being disturbed by the true dragon, he had already retreated from that mysterious state. When he looked at the clay figurine again, he had a troubled expression on his face. It shouldn't be wrong to create a human out of clay. Otherwise, I wouldn't have entered a state of harmony with heaven and earth when I was creating the clay figurines. Just this alone proves that I didn't take the wrong path. But why is it that even though the clay figurines have been successfully created, no humans have been born? Foam looked at the clay figurines, his mind filled with thoughts. He was certain. The path that he had chosen was definitely not wrong. This was because when he was creating the clay figurines earlier, the unseen connection made Foam understand that his path was correct. If he hadn't taken the right path, why would he have entered the state of harmony with the heavens and the earth? In other words, his path was right, or rather, his first step was right. If creating a human from clay is the first step, then what is the second step? Foam looked puzzled. He casually picked up a clay figurine and saw that the soil on it had gradually dried up as time passed. The palm-sized clay figurines were lifelike. However, there was no sign of life on it. No matter how beautiful the clay figurine is, it is still a dead object. Because it lacks life, it can't transform into a real living being. Whether it is a palm-sized clay figurine or a taller and bigger one, it is all the same. Unless it can be endowed with life and flesh, it is absolutely impossible to transform into a real living being. But how can a clay figurine be endowed with life and flesh? Feng's thoughts gradually moved towards a certain direction, and his eyes gradually brightened. If creating a human from clay was not wrong, then the clay figurine in front of him was correct. In short, the clay figurine must be the predecessor of the human race. But the problem was that the human race was a living being, while the clay figurine was a dead object. To turn a clay figurine into a human, he had to at least cross the barrier between life and death. In other words, he had to turn the clay figurine from a dead object into a real living being. After reaching that step, there would be a chance for a new human race to be born. However, it was easy to create a clay figurine, but endowing a dead object with life was an extremely difficult task. At least in Feng's memory, he didn't remember such a method. His thoughts were stuck in a dilemma. Foam simply sat down and entered a state of meditation. On the other side, the true dragon that escaped from the sea had unknowingly returned to his original position. Through the sea surface, he could see Foam sitting on the sea surface, deep in thought. A pair of huge amber eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. After being the overlord of the sea for so many years, the true dragon had never encountered anything like this before. Ever since he was born, he had fought dozens of battles of all sizes. Let's not talk about running away. Even if he was at a disadvantage, it was something that had never happened before. Human Foam, this is not over between us. Wait until I break through to the true immortal realm. I will take your life. The true dragon's heart was cold, and he did not hide his killing intent. After a long time, the true dragon gradually dived into the sea and disappeared completely. Although he wanted to kill Foam, he had to admit that with his current strength, there was still a gap between him and the other party. Unless he broke through to the true immortal realm. Otherwise, if they were to fight, the possibility of him dying was higher. For his own safety, the true dragon would not take the risk easily. Unless he broke through to the true immortal realm, he would not easily seek revenge on Feng. Anyway, this grudge had already been formed. When there was a chance in the future, he would definitely settle the score. When the true dragon retreated, Feng also raised his head slightly, looking at the sea with a cold gaze. Then, he fell into deep thought again. The true dragon had quietly returned. He also sensed it, but he did not reveal any clues. Not only that, Feng purposely put on a defenseless posture, trying to lure the other party into attacking. Then, when the other party attacked to kill him, he would explode and kill him. Unfortunately, the true dragon was too cautious. Even so, he did not attack on his own accord. Instead, he quietly retreated. He missed an opportunity to eliminate the root of the problem. Although Feng felt that it was a pity, he did not care too much about it. The current him, his heart and soul were still on how to create the human race. How to turn a dead clay figurine into a living being with flesh and blood. This was a difficult problem. Chapter 8:23. The biggest difference between a living being and an inanimate being is their vitality and flesh. But how do I create vitality and flesh and become a true living being? Feng's eyes were drifting, memories kept surging in his mind. He had traveled all over the world and seen many things. If heaven and earth could give him the answer, then he would be able to get what he wanted by flipping through his memories. Time slowly passed. After a long time, Feng's eyes focused again. When he was thinking about how to turn an inanimate being into a living being, he thought of Eldar. Before an Eldar became an Eldar, they were just simple plants. To a certain extent, although they weren't inanimate beings, they were no different from inanimate beings and couldn't reach the level of living beings. Plants aren't truly inanimate beings because they have vitality, but they don't have flesh and blood and intelligence, so they can't be considered living beings. No! Feng shook his head and overturned his original thoughts. He always thought that the difference between living beings and inanimate beings was their flesh and blood. But now that he thought about it, the biggest difference between living beings and inanimate beings was their intelligence. Only those who had intelligence could be considered as living beings. Plants didn't have intelligence, and clay men didn't have intelligence either, so they couldn't be considered living beings. This way, Feng suddenly had some ideas. For plants to become Eldar, the biggest prerequisite is to have intelligence, and the prerequisite for that is to breathe in and out spirit energy. In other words, the first step to becoming a living being is to breathe in and out spirit energy. Spirit energy is the source of all things in the world. When any living being is born, they need to rely on spirit energy to survive. For a clay man to become a living being, it must have spirit energy. Thinking of this, something seemed to be emerging in Feng's mind, and a mysterious aura descended. Spirit energy. How to make a clay man breathe in and out spirit energy. Or rather, how to make a clay man have spirit energy. Feng was excited. He felt that he had reached an important juncture and understood the key to the birth of the human race. As long as he could solve the problem of how to make a clay man have spirit energy, or breathe in and out spirit energy, then the human race would be born. Thinking of this, coupled with the mysterious guidance from the unseen world, Feng's thoughts moved many times faster than before. It did not take long. He thought of a solution. The simplest way to give the clay figurines spiritual energy is to soak them in spiritual energy and let them transform. With a wave of his hand, Feng absorbed the drifting spiritual chi of the world and infused it into the clay figurine in his hand. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. Time passed, but the clay figurine didn't change at all. Feng waved his hand again, dispersing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that he had pulled over. There was a confused look on his face. My train of thought should be correct, but why can't the gathered spiritual chi transform the clay figurines? Could it be that the concentration of spiritual chi is not enough? That's right. Maybe it's because the concentration of spiritual energy here isn't high enough. In Feng's opinion, the only problem left was the density of the spiritual energy. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was the origin of all living beings, but it was definitely not the richest spiritual chi. This point, Feng was certain. After all, having cultivated to his level, he naturally had the vision that he should have. If the spiritual chi of heaven and earth is not dense enough, then what other things can have denser spiritual chi? He was still going through his memories. Soon, Feng stretched out his palm, only to see the skin on the tip of his index finger split open, and a drop of bright blood condensed. The moment the blood appeared, a vast power spread out. Along with the power spread, there was also a monstrous spiritual chi looming. If there is something more dense than the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, then the flesh and blood of an expert is one of them. Since I was born, I have absorbed a lot of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. My cultivation has reached the limit of the celestial being realm, and the vast amount of spiritual chi in my blood is not something that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth can compare to. If spiritual chi is the key to transforming dead things, then using my blood, there is a high possibility of success. While Feng was thinking, the blood on his index finger dripped directly on the clay figurine in his other hand. The moment the blood fell on the clay figurine was directly impacted by the power of the blood, turning into dust and scattering. Seeing this, Feng's face was not discouraged. Instead, there was a look of excitement. This was because the moment the clay figurine crumbled into dust, he felt a flash of vitality that disappeared in an instant. From this, it could be seen. His blood could really give life to the clay figurine. The only problem was, the power of his blood was too tyrannical, and it was not something that these ordinary clay figurines could withstand. As long as this problem was solved, then the human race could be born. Immediately, Feng forced out another drop of blood from his index finger. But this time, he did not directly drip the blood onto a clay figurine. Instead, he used his vital essence to control it, dividing the blood into hundreds and thousands of pieces in the air. A drop of blood, after being divided, directly turned into a tiny thread. The vital essence in his right hand floated up, holding the thread formed by the blood. Feng calmed his mind and slowly controlled the thread to fly towards the surrounding clay figurines. Just as the thread was about to touch the clay figurine, his mind suddenly became highly concentrated. The gentle vital essence wrapped those clay figurines, and then controlled the thread bit by bit, fusing it into the clay figurine. The whole process was very slow. The thread seemed to extend infinitely, endlessly converging towards the clay figurine. Unlike the clay figurine before, which directly turned into dust, this time, after being wrapped by the vital essence and being divided by the blood, although the clay figurine shook slightly, it did not directly shatter like before. Half a day passed. The blood thread fused into the clay figurine. The free spiritual energy between heaven and earth seemed to be attracted by something, gathering towards those clay figurines. Slowly, those lifeless clay figurines seemed to be breathing, their chests rising and falling slightly, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At this time, the blood thread completely fused. Feng retracted his palm, and his highly concentrated mind suddenly relaxed. When he looked at those clay figurines again, there was a smile on his face. When the clay figurines were absorbing the spiritual energy, he understood that everything he did was right. Although the clay figurines absorbing the spiritual energy was only the first step of transforming from a lifeless object into a living creature, as long as this step was taken, the following things would be much easier. Looking at those clay figurines, Feng did not do anything else, and just stood at the side and watched slowly. On the other side, the clay figurine absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, as if it was a living creature breathing. Its originally palm-sized body also began to gradually grow under the constant replenishment of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. P.S. Support the original version, Chidian Chinese Network, app, Chidian Book. I am upright. Chapter 824. They were nurtured by Feng's blood. The clay figurines swallowed the spirit energy of heaven and earth, and were born with surging vitality. The spirit energy of heaven and earth that swarmed over became denser and denser, wrapping around the clay figurines. Soon, the spirit energy was so dense that the clay figurines could not be seen at all. If one looked from afar, the clay figurines wrapped in spirit energy were more like huge cocoons. A few hours passed. The spirit energy suddenly spread out, as if a butterfly had broken out of its cocoon. One by one, humans walked out. The humans who walked out of the spirit energy cocoon were all sturdy. There were men and women, but they all looked young. Those humans walked out in front of Foam. Then, they bowed down. "Greetings, Father God!" Hearing this, Foam revealed a gratified smile. He could feel the throbbing of his bloodline from these humans. Because the birth of these humans was because of the fusion of his blood, they were of the same origin. Then, Foam looked at the other clay figurines. The humans that were born now only occupied a small portion of the clay figurines. There were more clay figurines waiting to be transformed. With the first experience, this time, he was much more comfortable. More blood gushed out from his hand. Under the control of his vital essence, it turned into countless blood lines and merged into the remaining clay figurines. Soon, those clay figurines that had merged with the blood lines also began to swallow the spirit energy of heaven and earth. Not long after, the clay figurines broke out of the spirit energy cocoon and turned into humans. The moment those humans saw Foam, they all bowed and called out to Father God. For them, Foam was the existence that created them and had absolute respect for him. At this moment, all the clay figurines had already transformed into humans. Foam looked at those humans and felt something in his heart. The aura on his body suddenly became erratic. He took a step forward and his body was already flying in the air. The illusory law river under his feet surged, setting off his entire body. Then, the mother stream, which was hidden from view, also spanned across the sky. Foam raised his head and looked at the law mother river. He did not walk into it. Instead, he stretched out his hand and forcefully tore the law mother river apart. Then, he pulled out one of the laws. The law river was pulled out. Thunder rumbled between heaven and earth, and countless lightning snakes flashed crazily. Seeing this, Foam was not afraid at all. He forcefully fused the long river of laws that had been pulled out into his body. Bearing the rules. Sanctification of the flesh. The rules fused into his body, and an earth-shattering change immediately took place. The sky suddenly exploded, and the world was instantly enraged at this moment. In the next instant, monstrous lightning struck down. In the face of those thunderbolts, the wind did not stop the lightning at all. It allowed the lightning to reach its body and explode its flesh. However, the moment his flesh exploded, a rich vitality emerged from his body and healed his injuries in the blink of an eye. Thunderbolts descended one after another. The huge commotion also attracted the attention of other experts. Ever since Jianmu became an immortal, no other expert had become an immortal. Immortal Ascension Tribulation. It was like a flash in the pan. Now that the tribulation of ascension that had disappeared for many years had reappeared, it naturally attracted the attention of many powerhouses. The true dragon lurking in the sea immediately sensed the changes in the sky above the sea. When it looked up, it happened to see Foam withstanding the lightning tribulation with his physical body. "He's undergoing tribulation to become an immortal. Impossible! How could he become an immortal so quickly?" The true dragon's eyes were filled with disbelief. Feng's tribulation to become an immortal was completely unexpected. Feng's strength was indeed strong, but it was impossible for him to become an immortal so easily. However, the truth was right in front of him, and he had to believe it even if he did not want to. With that thought in mind, the true dragon's eyes were filled with killing intent. If Foam were to undergo tribulation to become an immortal, it might pose a fatal threat to him. Right now, there were only two paths in front of him. He could either dive deeper into the sea or let Foam fail his tribulation. Looking at the lightning tribulation falling from the sky, the true dragon was ready to stop it. However, just as he was about to make a move, a great terror descended from the unseen world, causing him to stop in his tracks. He would die. The true dragon's eyes were filled with deep fear. Just as he was about to attack, he had a premonition of the future. If he really attacked by force, perhaps Foam would fail his tribulation, but he would definitely die under the lightning tribulation. Immediately, the killing intent in the true dragon's eyes dissipated. After glancing at Foam, who was undergoing tribulation, he dived into the depths of the sea. Since he could not stop the other party from undergoing tribulation, in that case, it would be best to leave first. Otherwise, if Foam really succeeded in his tribulation, he was not confident that he could survive in his hands. In order to preserve his life and slowly take his revenge in the future, the true dragon did not have the thought of confronting Foam head-on for the time being. On the other side, Foam was completely immersed in the lightning tribulation. He did not care about the things in the outside world at all. He only operated his own chi and blood cultivation method to withstand the lightning tribulation. As the first batch of living beings in the world, Feng's cultivation method was created when he walked the world and matched his own advantages. Especially after he understood that he had to withstand the lightning tribulation to become an immortal. Furthermore, he had made certain improvements to his cultivation technique. His current cultivation method. It was mainly to temper his physical body. While enduring the lightning tribulation, Foam was also further refining his cultivation method. Time passed. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. When the last lightning tribulation fell, a vast and boundless power was emitted from Feng's body, instantly sweeping through the world. At the same time, golden flowers scattered in the sky, golden lotuses bloomed on the ground. It showed the birth of the second true immortal. Foam, who had completely become an immortal, was now standing in the air. His heart was full of pride. Looking at the tribulation clouds in the sky that had not completely dissipated, he spoke loudly. I am Foam. From today onwards I will establish the human race. Anyone who has my bloodline will be part of the human race. As soon as he finished speaking, there was another explosion in the world. The vast expanse of purple chi surged over from the horizon, scattering all the tribulation clouds that had yet to disperse on their own. In the next second, the purple chi surrounded his body. The aura on Feng's body rose steadily. Soon, it broke the original barrier and reached a new height. He succeeded! In the mountain range, a face appeared on the Jianmu. His gaze seemed to be able to pass through billions of miles of space and directly see the scene of the sea. Early when Foam was undergoing the tribulation to become an immortal, he had already noticed it. Now that the human race was established, the world congratulated it, and the sound spread throughout the world. The Jianmu naturally knew about it. To be honest, he did not expect that Foam could create the human race in such a short time. After all, creating a race was not such an easy thing. Creating Eldar by himself was a ready-made bargain. If one wanted to create a race from nothing, even the Jianmu tree was not 100% confident that it could do so. Chapter 825. His spiritual will withdrew from his inner world. Qin Shujian, who was sitting motionlessly on his seat, finally came back to his senses. Until now, in his mind there was still the scene of Foam creating the human race and transcending the tribulation to become an immortal. It could be said that observing the birth of the human race made Qin Shujian, who was a human himself, have many insights in his heart. These insights, they would not be directly converted into strength, but they could allow his state of mind to rise to another level on the original foundation. In a short period of time, such changes would not be seen. But as time passed, slowly it would play a role. However, what really surprised Qin Shujian was the way Foam finally became an immortal. Normally speaking, if a cultivator wanted to walk the path of physical sanctification, they would shatter the rules and then absorb a piece of the rule fragment. With this rule fragment, they would completely transform and break through to the perfected immortal realm. But Foam was different. He did not enter the mother river of rules, nor did he open up the battlefield of rules. Instead, he relied on his own strength to forcefully absorb a complete rule. One had to know. The first 8 levels of the perfected immortal realm were all perfecting and repairing the rules. Only when one reached the 9th level of the perfected immortal realm would one truly master a complete rule. In other words, when Feng absorbed the complete rule, when he broke through to the perfected immortal realm, in terms of realm, he was already a 9th level immortal. However, the rules of the inner world were all in the state of a seed. They could not be compared to the vast and complete rules of the great wide world. Therefore, Feng had the realm of a 9th level immortal, but his strength was far from the level of a 9th level immortal. To be honest, he should be the weakest 9th level immortal in history. Because in Qin Shijian's opinion, when he broke through, his strength was around the 2nd level of the perfected immortal realm. However, after establishing the human race and receiving the reward of the world, his strength had soared to the 5th level of the perfected immortal realm. Compared to shattering the rules of the great wide world, absorbing a complete rule and then using one's own methods to expand it, the difficulty of breaking through will be higher. However, his strength will also be more powerful. Qin Shijian shook his head. The disadvantages of this approach were obvious, but the advantages were also obvious. He was also a perfected immortal with a physical sanctification. If other people had broken through to immortality, their strength would be at the 1st level of immortality. However, Feng had gained the strength of a 2nd level immortal the moment he became an immortal, which was enough to suppress other immortals. Furthermore, once the other party expanded the laws to a certain extent, their chances of breaking through to the Dao fruit realm would be much higher than breaking the laws and ascending to immortality. Basically, the disadvantage of ascending to immortality this way was only the part that was developed in the middle. Once one fully adapted to it in the later stages, the advantage would be even more obvious. It's a pity that this method of immortal ascension can only be carried out in an inner world or a newly born world. If it were any other mature world, there would be no way to do it. After all, a truly complete set of rules was far too powerful. It was impossible for a body that could not withstand the tribulation to bear the complete laws. If you really do that by force, there's a high probability, no, 100% chance that your physical body will collapse, and you'll die under the power of the rules. With Qin Shijian's experience, it was easy for him to see the drawbacks. How could it be so easy to carry a complete set of laws? Without a strong enough physical body, it was impossible to bear the weight. Unless the rules were weak enough. That was why there was the principle of breaking the rules and intercepting the fragments to become an immortal. Any system was established by countless predecessors one after another, and then tidied up and perfected step by step until it was widely spread. It was impossible to become a big fatty in one bite. A few epochs ago, there was a huge commotion. There were experts who forcefully carried a complete set of rules and ended up dying. With the lesson learned from the past, it was unknown how many experts had died before this drawback was perfected. Thinking of this, Qin Shijian focused again and recalled what had happened just now. If he was not wrong, the law that Feng followed should be the newly born human Dao law. In other words, the path that Feng followed was actually the same as Zhao Huang. However, as the human ancestor, Feng's understanding of the human Dao law was not something that Zhao Huang could compare to. When Feng attained the Dao and became an immortal, he completely absorbed the human Dao law. In other words, heaven and earth lost the human Dao law forever. However, this is not absolute. As long as Feng exists in heaven and earth will naturally derive the human Dao law again according to the path that he took. Moreover, the human Dao law of heaven and earth will grow correspondingly to the number of human Dao law that Feng created. Thinking about it this way, it's a good thing. Qin Shijian was in a good mood. The rules would not really disappear. As long as heaven and earth existed, the rules would exist. Feng became an immortal. Although he carried the human Dao law. Since he existed in heaven and earth could still give birth to new human Dao law. Now that the human race had appeared, the rules were further perfected, and the inner world had become even stronger. Accordingly, As the ruler of the inner world, Qin Shijian's strength had also grown a little from the original foundation. Moreover, because he was a human himself, he had no choice but to accept it. This increase. They were much stronger than when the spirit race had first been born. Qin Shijian's mind sank into his body. He could clearly feel that his strength was steadily increasing. After the evolution of heaven and earth, his body was basically a shell of its former self. His internal organs no longer existed. It was just an evolved heaven and earth. Endless energy was being emitted from his inner world at every moment, replenishing Qin Shijian's body. This allowed his physical body to maintain a balanced state, and at the same time, it was steadily improving. If this situation was seen by others, they would undoubtedly be greatly shocked. But for Qin Shijian, his current situation couldn't be any more normal. Since the human race appeared, my strength has taken another step forward from the ninth heaven immortal realm. However, I'm still a little short of reaching the half-step Tao fruit realm. Unless a few more races appear and perfect the rules. When that time comes, I can truly reach the half-step Tao fruit realm. Once he reached the half-step Tao fruit realm, Qin Shijian was confident that he could sweep away the three major Void Fiend clans. Now, Eldar and the human race had appeared. It would not take too long for the remaining races to appear. No matter what. There were two factors in front of him. As long as he imitated them, it would not be difficult for the other races to appear. After calming his mind, Qin Shijian sat upright on the throne and began to digest the insights he had gained from observing the birth of the human race. These insights were not fleeting, but if he did not digest them and allowed them to absorb them on their own, there would not be much that could be converted. In order to avoid wasting them, he would rather spend some time converting and absorbing them completely. Chapter 826. The next day. Court meeting. The gods stood in great numbers. It had been a long time since the last imperial court meeting. This was because Qin Shijian also needed to go into seclusion to increase his strength. It was impossible for him to hold court meetings every day to discuss so many things. Moreover, there weren't so many things that needed to be discussed every day. Moreover, the gods also needed to cultivate. It was impossible for them to hold court meetings almost every day like mortals. Every minor court meeting, Qin Shijian would inform everyone through the investiture of the gods so that the gods could make preparations. After all the immortals and gods had arrived, Qin Shijian sat on the throne and said calmly, "Everyone, if you have something to report, you may leave the court." As soon as he finished speaking, an immortal god stepped out and cupped his hands. "Emperor of Heaven, the demon abyss is approaching. Many cultivators of the myriad races have accidentally entered the range of the demon abyss and been devoured by it. So far, many cultivators have died. Among them, a true immortal died at the hands of the demon abyss. Because the demon abyss was approaching, it was getting closer and closer to the battlefield. Gradually, there were already many cultivators who encountered the demon abyss when they went out to train. Those who were lucky were able to escape when they encountered the demon abyss. But those who were unlucky died at the hands of the demon abyss. Even an existence as strong as a true immortal had a slim chance of survival when encountering the demon abyss. After all, the saying that the demon abyss was a dangerous place was not just a saying. If there was no way to keep a true immortal, what right did it have to be called a dangerous place? Qin Shijian said. There's no need to pay attention to the matters of the demon abyss. This is the general trend, and no one can stop it. Warn the cultivators of the myriad races not to enter the demon abyss again. In the future, the heavenly court will deal with the three great clans and consolidate their strength to fight the demon abyss. Hearing this, the immortal god retreated. Qin Shijian shifted his gaze and looked at Emperor Zhao. Emperor Zhongyuan, how is the recruitment of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals? Emperor of Heaven, more than 100,000 heavenly soldiers have been recruited. There are currently a total of 1,000 heavenly generals. They are still in the process of selection. Emperor Zhao stepped out and replied truthfully. Qin Shijian nodded slightly. 100,000 heavenly soldiers was actually quite a large number. After all, those who could become celestial soldiers were all at the fourth tier of the celestial human realm and above. 100,000 celestial soldiers represented at least 100,000 saints. Before the heavenly court was established, 100,000 saints. Even if all the saints of the 10,000 races were added together, they would not have such a number. Not to mention, a saint who could become a celestial soldier was much stronger than the average saint. To put it simply, these 100,000 saints were the cream of the crop. As for the 1,000 celestial generals, they were equivalent to 1,000 peak celestial being experts. They could be said to be the reserves of true immortals. Furthermore, those who could become heavenly generals were all experts on Zhou Tian's war general role. Every cultivator who entered Zhou Tian's war general list was an expert among experts. Their chances of breaking through to the true immortal realm in the future were much higher than other cultivators who did not enter the list. 720 Zhou Tian's general ranking list. All cultivators who entered the heavenly court and became heavenly generals would have their names disappear from the war general ranking. It was also because of this. Only the latecomers could continue to enter the war general ranking list. In this way, one could imagine how strong the 1,000 heavenly generals were. 100,000 heavenly soldiers and 1,000 heavenly generals have been successfully recruited. The heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals can be considered to have formed a preliminary scale. You all need to practice the array formation that I passed down. At the same time, do you all have anything to say about the heavenly law? Qin Shujian paused for a moment, and changed the topic to the heavenly law. Earlier on, he had already mentioned the heavenly rule. But after so long, there had been no court meeting, so the matter of the heavenly law was temporarily put aside. Now that the court meeting was held, thus, this matter was brought up again. In the end, the heavenly law was related to the order of the heavenly court. There could not be any carelessness, or it would not be conducive to the subsequent management of the heavenly court. Hearing this, the gods looked at each other, and no one spoke easily. They did not know what Qin Shujian was thinking, so they did not dare to interfere with the heavenly law. It would be bad if what they said was different from what the other party thought. The scene. They fell silent. When Qin Shujian saw this, he spoke again. None of you have any objections, but I have compiled some heavenly laws these days. Why don't you all take a look at them? As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves. Countless streams of light shot out, and before the gods could react, they entered their minds. In an instant, the gods fell into a daze. After a few breaths, they gradually woke up from their daze. Heavenly law! Emperor Zhao silently digested the memories in his mind, and his eyes flickered slightly. Those streams of light contained the information of the heavenly law. After digesting those memories, he realized that the number of heavenly laws that Qin Shujian gave him was actually not much. There were only a few. However, these heavenly rules contained a lot of things. With Emperor Zhao's status, he could naturally see the main message. These heavenly laws. It was nothing more than to consolidate the position of the heavenly court and make all races submit to the heavenly court without any possibility of disobedience. Emperor Zhao did not have any objections to this. At this moment, the other immortals and gods had also digested the memories of the heavenly laws. There were different expressions on their faces, but just like before, no one spoke easily. Qin Shujian looked down at the gods and said indifferently, Do you have any objections? These heavenly laws were selected by him after combining them with the heavenly laws of the Third Era. It was relatively popular, but there was nothing wrong with it. Hearing this, the gods looked at each other and saw the same thing in each other's eyes. Then, they all bowed. There is no problem with the heavenly laws set by the Emperor of Heaven. We have no objections. Good. Qin Shujian nodded and said in a deep voice, Since you have no objections, the heavenly laws will be officially implemented from today onwards. All cultivators of the great wide world must abide by the heavenly laws. No cultivator is allowed to violate them. Anyone who violates them will be severely punished. In order to make the heavenly laws sufficiently intimidating, I will refine a supreme treasure to imprison cultivators who trigger the heavenly laws. We obey. The gods bowed again. Judging from the current heavenly laws, although it was not beneficial to the various races, it was not harmful either. If it was established, so be it. As for the rest, they would have to wait until the future. However, they were also a little curious. That was exactly what kind of supreme treasure Qin Shujian was going to refine. When the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell appeared, the gods had already refreshed their understanding of the Emperor of Heaven. They knew that Qin Shujian's forging methods were extraordinary. But they had never thought that the forging methods of this celestial emperor would be tyrannical to such an extent. Chapter 8:27. The heavenly law was established. There were no accidents. Qin Shujian picked up the imperial insignia and directly imprinted it on the investiture of the gods. In an instant, streams of light overflowed from the investiture of the gods. The corresponding information also appeared in the minds of the gods. The heavenly law has been established. I hope that all of you will abide by it and set an example. Those who violate the heavenly law will be punished at the very least. Those who violate the heavenly law will be stripped of their deity position, beaten down to the mortal world, or even killed. In addition, I also want to set up the immortal slaying platform. Anyone who seriously violates the heavenly law will walk on the immortal slaying platform. I don't want you to be on the immortal slaying platform in the future, Qin Shujian said calmly. The gods lowered their heads in silence. They were not worried that they would walk on the immortal slaying platform. Instead, they were more concerned about whether the immortal slaying platform would mean that the heavenly court would have another deity position if it was established. Just as the gods were thinking about it, Shiyang stepped forward and cupped his hands. Emperor of Heaven, the gods of the heavenly court have their own duties now. If the immortal slaying platform is established, will a new deity position be born? That's right. Qin Shujian nodded. Shiyang said, the Emperor of Heaven once promised me a deity position. I wonder if the deity position on the immortal slaying platform will count? Of course. Qin Shujian smiled faintly. You want to exchange this opportunity for the deity position on the immortal slaying platform, but I wonder who you want to give this deity position to? You have to know that the deity position on the immortal slaying platform is not as good as Zhou Tian's constellation, but it is not something that ordinary cultivators can bear. And because the immortal slaying platform will be a place to kill immortals in the future, it will be accompanied by a monstrous evil aura. If you can't suppress the evil aura, you will die in the future. The level of the deity position on the immortal slaying platform was not high. But to bear this deity position was not something that ordinary cultivators could do. Especially the evil aura that could kill immortals. If one's strength was not enough, it would be easy for the evil aura to erode one's mind. When the time came, it might be the result of death. Shiyang's expression remained unchanged as he cupped his fists and said, Emperor of Heaven, don't worry. The human race has bright vision. General Dan Hao. In the past, he fought for the human race and killed countless enemies. Now, he had reached the limits of the celestial being. Although he had not broken through to the true immortal realm, he was once ranked on Zhou Tian's general ranking. Now, he was one of the heavenly generals. Regardless of strength or experience, he believed that it would not be a problem for him to take up the position of a deity on the immortal slaying stage. As for the baleful aura mentioned by the Emperor of Heaven, Dan Hao can also suppress it. Dan Hao! Qin Shujian's eyes flickered. As early as when Shiyang stepped forward, he had already thought about who the other party was trying to obtain the deity position. If it was Dan Hao, then it would make sense. Of the 5 generals of the Great Zhao, not many were still alive. Of them, Dan Hao was the strongest. Long before the human race left the eastern continent, the other party was already a 6th-level celestial being expert. Now, his strength had increased by quite a bit. It was just as Shiyang had said. Even though Dan Hao had yet to break through to the true immortal realm, he was still a step away from it. Just as Xiang was speaking, the expressions of the other gods changed slightly. They could also understand that the deity position of a deity on the immortal slaying stage was definitely not ordinary. Until now, the human race had a total of 4 people holding the deity position in the heavenly court. Putting aside Ningbo, who was ranked last, for the time being, he did not even have the qualifications to enter the court. However, he was the disciple of the Emperor of Heaven. Needless to say, his future prospects were great. Except for Ningbo. Xian was the head of the Zhou Tian constellation, Xiao Chifeng was the head of the 4 war gods, and Emperor Zhao Xietian was the head of the 5 imperial emperors. It could be said that the human race's power in the heavenly court was already too strong. At this moment, if the human race had another deity position, then the human race's power in the heavenly court would become even stronger. Under the subtle influence, the possibility of the immortals and gods of the other races wanting to compete with the human race was very slim. Although the tens of thousands of races were peaceful now and there were no battles, that was because Qin Shujian, the Emperor of Heaven, was in charge. There were also the void demons and the external threats of the demon abyss that made the situation stable. When the external threats were resolved, there would be internal conflicts. When that time came, even with the Emperor of Heaven's suppression, there might be undercurrents. However, although they did not want the human race to obtain the deity position of the immortal slaying stage, the other party did have a spot in his hands. There was no reason for others to fight for it. In the eyes of these immortals and gods, the only one who had a chance to snatch the deity position of the human race was the West Spirit Emperor, Sihahai. Even though Sihahai was also born in the human race, he had already parted ways with the human race after he created the demon race. When Xian had obtained a deity position, the West Spirit Emperor also had a deity position in his hands. If the other party used this deity position to compete with the human race, then it was very likely that the human race would not be able to obtain the deity position of the immortal slaying stage. There were thoughts in his mind. Many immortals and gods looked at Sihahai, who was standing in front of them silently. At the same time, Xiang also glanced at Sihahai from the corner of his eyes. In his opinion, now, the only one who could compete with the human race for the deity position was this West Spirit Emperor. Xiang knew very well that the other immortals and gods of the heavenly court did not want the human race to obtain this deity position. But they did not want it. With the means of those immortals and gods, there was no possibility of stopping him. Now, the only one who could make him fail on the verge of success was Sihahai. Under the watchful eyes of the gods, Sihahai smiled faintly and did not speak, nor did he show any intention of competing for the deity position. Immediately, some immortals and gods could not help but speak. Reporting to the Emperor of Heaven, the demon race was born with the killing of heaven and earth. In my opinion, the deity position of the immortal slaying stage should be given to the demon race. After saying that, the immortal god frantically winked at Sihahai. However, Sihahai turned a blind eye to it. Hearing this, Qin Shujian could not help but ask, "What does West Spirit Emperor think?" "I have no objections. Since the human race wants the deity position of the immortal slaying stage, then give it to the human race." Sihahai shook his head, looking indifferent. In this regard, the immortal god who spoke up for him was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. The typical emperor was not anxious, but the eunuch was. Up until now, the demon race only had one deity position in the heavenly court. So it was all because of a salted fish like you. Anyone with ambition should fight for the deity position now. The immortal god who spoke thought of everything, but he did not expect Sihahai to be so salted. The deity position that was delivered to his door did not have any intention of fighting for it. Hearing this, Qin Shujian did not force him. He nodded and said, "Since West Spirit Emperor has no intention of fighting for the deity position, then this deity position will be bestowed to the human race's Dan Hao." "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven!" Xiang's face revealed a look of joy. "Send a message to Dan Hao in 7 days. I will confer the deity position to him." "Your Majesty!" Chapter 828. The deity position of the immortal slaying stage fell into the hands of the humans just like that. When the immortals and gods of all races saw this, they had the urge to beat their chests and sigh. With the addition of this deity position, the humans had a total of 5 deity positions in the heavenly courts. Compared to the other races, who only had 1 deity position, the difference was huge. If the demons had made a move, they could have broken the possibility of the humans obtaining the 5th deity position. However, Sihai had no intention of competing. Not only did the immortal who spoke not destroy the humans' plan, but he also exposed himself and offended the humans. Speaking of which, it was like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Qin Shujian said. The deity position of the immortal slaying stage has been established. It was also said before that those who have reached the 3rd realm of the Grand Master realm in the Tao of array formations, alchemy, and forging can enter the heavenly courts to obtain the deity position. I wonder if there have been any cultivators who have achieved this after so many years? The gods looked at each other and were speechless. 3rd realm Grand Masters were not that powerful in the current era where perfected immortals were everywhere. However, they were not powerful. It was more difficult to produce a 3rd realm Grand Master than to produce a perfected immortal. Until now, not a single cultivator could reach this level. Xiam wanted to say something, but the Jiaohuang glared at him and shut him up. Seeing the silent scene, Qin Shujian shook his head and did not say anything more about this matter. He also knew that the various races did not have much achievements in the 3 Tao. Although the cultivation environment had improved a lot, the cultivation of the 3 Tao was not based on the cultivation environment. It was extremely difficult to produce a 3rd realm Grandmaster without a solid foundation. From the looks of it, the ones most likely to obtain these deity positions should be the human race. However, the humans did not say anything. Then Qin Shujian understood that the humans had not produced a 3rd realm Grandmaster. However, according to his understanding of the human race, a few years had passed. Even if the humans had not produced a 3rd realm Grandmaster, it would be soon. Hand over the stars and star cores that I asked you to collect now, Qin Shujian said slowly, indicating that the court session was coming to an end. Everything that needed to be said had been said. It had been a few years since the last time the star core was handed over to him. He believed that every immortal and god should have a lot of them. Zhou Tian didn't have enough star nuclei to refine the star map, so this matter couldn't be delayed any longer. The deities heard this. Immediately he handed over all the star cores he had collected. Seeing the star cores flying over, Qin Shujian waved his hand and collected a portion of them into the investiture of the gods. After the investiture of the gods had reached its limit, he then used the imperial insignia to forcibly expand the capacity of the investiture of the gods. Only then was he able to take in all the remaining star cores. Qin Shujian only roughly sensed it, and a smile appeared on his face. Over 400 stars. More than 200 star cores. This kind of harvest was much more than he had expected. However, Qin Shujian's smile disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Continue to recruit heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Train the existing heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals strictly. Increase the strength of the myriad races as much as possible. Also, find the location of the 3 major clans. 1 year later, the heavenly court will officially declare war on them. That's all I have to say. Court session is dismissed. Qin Shujian's words were powerful. After he finished speaking, he ignored the deities of the heavenly court and directly disappeared from the throne. After he left, only then did the remaining deities leave one after another. The war would start in a year. This news was not too surprising to them, because a few years ago, the deities already knew that the heavenly court was going to war with the 3 major clans. Now that they calculated the time, about 3 to 4 years had passed. If it was another year, it would be about the same as the deadline Qin Shujian originally gave. It was only logical that the war would start. In addition, the strength of the various races was increasing rapidly. If they really wanted to go to war, they were very confident that they could win. Since they were confident that they could win, then the war would start. Compared to the war with the three major clans, some immortals were more concerned about what had happened in the court meeting just now. Some immortals took a deep look at Shi Yang and the others. They turned around and left. There were also some with smiles on their faces and cupped their hands to congratulate them. Congratulations to the human race for adding another deity position. Congratulations. These immortals had smiles on their faces. It was impossible to tell if they were real or fake. To this, Emperor Zhao also smiled faintly and nodded. Shi Yang cupped his hands in return. Not long after, the immortals left one after another. Only Shi Yang and the others were left in the inner hall of the heavenly palace. Humph, all of them are hiding knives behind their smiles. If they really have the chance to stab the human race, they will definitely not show mercy. The smile on Shi Yang's face disappeared and became gloomy. Emperor Zhao's expression was calm. The human race has too many deity positions in the heavenly court. It's normal for them to have ideas. Go back and tell Su Zhan and the others to cultivate well. Don't expose yourself without permission. Father, are you worried that someone will attack them? It's not impossible. They would dare to do so unless they don't want to live anymore. Shi Yang's face was filled with anger as he shouted coldly. Now that the human race was at its peak, who would dare to attack the human race easily? Moreover, now that the heavenly law had been set, it was also a violation of the heavenly law to stir up strife between the various races. The Emperor of Heaven would definitely not stand by and do nothing. Emperor Zhao shook his head with a faint smile on his face. You underestimate them too much. Compared to the human race having a few more deity positions, sacrificing a few people is nothing. We don't have any concrete evidence, and we have nothing to say. When the time comes and we really succeed, we can casually push out a scapegoat and this matter will be settled. The great calamity is imminent. The Emperor of Heaven will not let the myriad races fall into chaos. There are some things that you have to prepare for a rainy day. You can't let your guard down. After hearing Emperor Zhao's warning, the anger on Shi Yang's face subsided a little. Then, he nodded and replied, Father, you're right. I know what to do. With that, he looked puzzled again. Speaking of which, Emperor Xiling also has a deity position in his hands. Why didn't he compete with the human race? In the end, the demon race's foundation is too shallow. Even if they have an additional deity position, it won't be of much use. Emperor Xiling also doesn't want to fall out with the human race because of this. After all, the demon race and the human race can be considered allies. Emperor Zhao glanced at him, and then explained. What the demon race needs now is to recuperate and slowly develop. They don't need to stand on the cusp of the storm and compete with the various races. Moreover, he took the initiative to give up the fight for the deity position this time. The human race also owes him a favor. With this favor, if the demon race has any trouble in the future, the human race will have to lend a hand. They want to push the demon race out to fight against the human race. Unfortunately, Emperor Xiling is not a fool. How could he be willing to be this knife? Shi Yang nodded in agreement. Then, they left the inner hall of the heavenly palace. Chapter 829. Ever since the southern heavenly gate was established, the entire heavenly court was in a sealed state. But seriously speaking, apart from the southern heavenly gate, there was actually another place for immortal gods to enter. That was, above the heavenly court, where Zhou Tian's star map covered the entire heavenly court. That was a place where the heavenly court's array formation could not reach. But this entrance could only be seen but not moved. Because on Zhou Tian's star map, there was a second-era Khanate cardinal treasure guarding it. As a second-era Khanate cardinal treasure, Sanhua's sword could not unleash much of its strength without its master's control. But its grade was there, which could not be ignored. Coupled with the power of Zhou Tian's star map, even an upper 3 true immortal would not be able to directly break through the seal of Zhou Tian's star map under such circumstances. It could be said that In terms of strength, Sanhua, who guarded Zhou Tian's star map, was not far from a half-step Dao fruit. But there was a fatal limitation. That was that the shadow of Zhou Tian's star map could not be moved at will. It could only be fixed in one position. Or else, if such a top battle force was pulled out, it would have already wiped out the 3 void demon clans. In such a huge heavenly court, only Qin Shujian could enter it without any obstruction. Emperor of Heaven! The long sword that stood quietly above Zhou Tian's star map swayed slightly, and a cold voice sounded. Qin Shujian glanced at Sanhua and nodded his head lightly, which was considered a response. Then, he took out the investiture of the gods and the stars stored in it. So many stars! Sanhua was slightly shocked when he saw the stars taken out. Zhou Tian's star map. As the name implied, it contained the number of Zhou Tian's stars. But one thing to understand was, the number of Zhou Tian's stars wasn't just 365. Strictly speaking, the number of Zhou Tian's stars implied infinity. However, the most important and basic thing was to gather 365 of them. The number of stars that Qin Shujian took out was no longer just 365. Instead, it had exceeded the original number by quite a bit, together with the stars that already existed. In this way, there were even more of them. Sanhua did not expect Qin Shujian to be able to gather so many stars so quickly. He didn't even doubt it. Had the other party emptied the entire outer realm of space? Qin Shujian ignored Sanhua's shock. With a thought, the seal on the star instantly shattered. The seal was broken. Xingchen's true form was revealed. More than 400 stars gathered together was enough to engulf the entire heavenly court. The boundless pressure crushed down from the void, as if the sky was about to crumble. Even the immortals of the celestial court were under tremendous pressure. At this moment, all the experts of the celestial court raised their heads to look at the top of their heads. The light of the sun and moon had already dimmed. Only countless stars were competing to shine. Moreover, they could see that those stars were falling towards the celestial court at a terrifying speed. The momentum of the fall was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. The expressions of many immortals changed. It was true that they could seal the stars, but it was completely different from directly resisting the momentum of the falling stars. Moreover, the falling stars were not as simple as one. More than 400 stars fell at the same time. Even an existence as strong as Xiao Chengfeng would have to retreat. In short, if the stars really fell completely, the celestial court would definitely be destroyed. Not only would the celestial court be destroyed, but even the 4 continents would suffer a great impact. The number of casualties of the 10,000 races would all depend on fate. Just as the gods were in shock and uncertainty, Qin Shujian stretched out his hand and a vast amount of true essence gushed out from his palm. In an instant, all the falling stars were enveloped within it. The weight of more than 400 stars was already immeasurable. But even so, he could still rely on his own strength to support all the stars. The stars supported him. His divine consciousness spread out crazily. Under the sweep of his divine consciousness, the stars were forcibly sealed and shrunk. Not long after, the dark sky became bright again. Qin Shujian looked at the stars in front of him that had shrunk countless times. With a thought, he sent all the stars into Zhou Tian's star map. Boom! More than 400 stars were all merged into the shadow of Zhou Tian's star map. Vast and surging power surged endlessly, causing the shadow of Zhou Tian's star map to surge up and down like waves. Then, stars were lit up one by one. The shadow of Zhou Tian's star map, which was already resplendent, became extremely dazzling at this moment. This dazzling light not only fell into the eyes of the gods of the celestial court, but also into the eyes of the 10,000 races of the 4 continents. That light, it seemed unstoppable. No matter where it existed, it could be seen clearly. In the next moment, countless pillars of light bombarded the celestial court from above those stars. A large number of pillars of light converged and descended, transforming into a vast galaxy that soaked the entire celestial court. Not only that, there was also a galaxy that broke through the restraints of the array and flowed into the astral wind layer. Soon, this vast galaxy power broke through the seal of the celestial court and the astral wind layer and fell into the 4 continents. At this moment, all the living beings of the 10,000 races felt the pores of their bodies open. Endless galaxy power drilled into their bodies through the pores, constantly transforming and cleansing their bodies. This rich power, it completely surpassed the original power of the stars. Although the previous power was also extremely rich, there was no difference without comparison. Compared to the current situation, the original power of the stars was more than several times weaker. After Zhou Tian's star map completed the basic 365 stars, the power extracted was more than several times stronger than when the basic requirements were not completed. In addition, the number of stars he had now far exceeded the number of 365. One could imagine just how dense would the power of the Milky Way be when it came crashing down. When this power came crashing down, all the celestial cultivators instinctively sat down cross-legged and frantically absorbed it. Many of them even broke through and reached a higher level. Even perfected immortals. When they felt this vast and surging power, their expressions completely changed. In the territory of the 9-headed dog clan, Chu Qin, who had only become an immortal for a few years, suddenly had a huge change in expression when he felt the galaxy power. What rich star power! Why did it suddenly become so strong? He was puzzled. He was in a state of confusion about what was happening now. But after the shock, Chu Chen's face was filled with ecstasy. The star power becoming rich was a good thing. He was confident that in such an environment, he could break through to the 2nd level immortal realm in a short time. Chapter 830. Today is the day to break through to the true immortal realm. In the Qianyuan sacred ground, Qin Yuanbai looked at the falling star power with a heroic expression. Although he had become one of the heavenly generals, it didn't mean that he needed to be stationed in the heavenly court all year round. On the contrary, he didn't spend much time in the heavenly court. He only needed to go to the heavenly court when it was his turn. Most of the time, he could arrange it on his own. He could enter the Zhou Tian War General list and pass the assessment to become a heavenly general of the heavenly court. There was no doubt about Qin Yuanbai's strength. Long ago, he was qualified to break through to the true immortal realm. But because of the announcement of the 3 major systems, he had been suppressing his realm and not breaking through. As the current sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, Qin Yuanbai still had some goals. If the 3 major systems hadn't been announced, then there wouldn't be a big problem for him to reach the Tao with the rules. But with the announcement of the 3 major systems, now everyone knew that reaching the Tao with the rules was the weakest way to reach the Tao. Unless one wasn't talented enough or had an ordinary foundation, they would rely on the rules to reach the Tao. But anyone with a bit of ambition. Let's not talk about the Tao of heaven. But they also had to walk the physical sanctification system. In fact, although the Tao of heaven and earth had a reputation, no one had ever seen anyone use this method to reach the Tao. Although all the clans were guessing, the Emperor of Heaven should have the Tao of heaven and earth, but there wasn't much evidence. Therefore, the physical sanctification system was the mainstream. Qin Yuanbai had been tempering his physical body and constantly strengthening his foundation in order to wait for an opportunity to smoothly transcend the tribulation and become an immortal. Now that the star power had undergone a qualitative change, he felt an opportunity. His body didn't move. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Soon, the mother stream surged. Qin Yuanbai walked out of the mother stream, and a long river of laws spread out under his feet like a painting. It was a huge movement. It also attracted the attention of other cultivators in the Qianyuan sacred ground. The sacred lord is going to break through to the true immortal realm. It seems that another true immortal is going to be born in the Qianyuan sacred ground. I wonder if the sacred lord intends to reach the Tao with the rules or walk the physical sanctification system? Is there even a need to ask? The Divine Lord must have walked the path of physical sanctification, otherwise he would have broken through long ago. Many cultivators were discussing. In their opinion, Qin Yuanbai had long had the qualifications to break through to the true immortal realm, but he had always been suppressing his realm. If he were to make a breakthrough now, he would definitely walk the path of the physical sanctification system. As long as he succeeded in breaking through, the Qianyuan sacred ground would have a second true immortal. As for the first true immortal, needless to say, everyone knew that he was referring to Qin Shujian. Although Qin Shujian had become the Emperor of Heaven, in a sense, he had left the Qianyuan sacred ground. But for the people of the Qianyuan sacred ground, no matter what, Qin Shujian was the founder of the Qianyuan sacred ground. Even if he was already the Emperor of Heaven, he was still a member of the Qianyuan sacred ground. Despite such a statement, Qianyuan sacred ground seemed to be trying to flatter themselves. However, the others had no way to refute him. When Qin Yuanbai broke through, he saw the mother stream of precepts tremble again. After that, there were other experts who stepped on the long river of precepts and walked out. Obviously, this time, the transformation of the power of the stars had allowed some powerhouses who had been in seclusion to begin the process of self-breakthrough. Yuan sect. Several elders gathered together. If Qin Yuanbai succeeds in breaking through, the position of the sacred lord should be as stable as Mount Tai. Su Yuanming looked at the person who had opened up the precepts battlefield with a sneer on his face. Zheng Fang's expression was calm. The position of the sacred lord is stable, but it doesn't mean anything. Now, the number of powerhouses born in the Nine Palace sect is limited. In my opinion, there is no successor. Of course, he was exaggerating when he said that there was no successor. But compared to the other sects, the Nine Palace sect was nothing. Especially with the support of Qin Yuanbai, the number of powerhouses the Nine Palace sect had was a certain gap compared to the other sections. To put it bluntly, if it weren't for Qin Yuanbai, the status of the Nine Palace sect in the Qianyuan sacred ground would have plummeted. After speaking, Zheng Fang turned his head to look at Niu Feng and the others, and said with a faint smile, "Speaking of which, you should be breaking through to the true immortal realm soon. It's not that easy to break through." Niu Feng shook his head and sighed. The Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture is indeed extraordinary, but the subsequent breakthroughs are also extremely dangerous. If it weren't for the fact that the power of the stars has become stronger, I wouldn't have been able to cultivate to the current realm even if I were given a few more decades. From the looks of it, it will take at least 1 or 2 years for me to break through. In the past, breaking through to the true immortal realm in 1 or 2 years was undoubtedly extremely fast. Even if this time was multiplied by dozens or hundreds of times, it would still be enough to make people ecstatic. But one thing was clear. Today was different from the past. The current world was no longer the world of the past. Powerful figures could barely be regarded as high-end combat power. Only true immortals were qualified to suppress a sect or a region. No matter how strong a celestial being was, they were only celestials. In the face of a true immortal, celestials were like ants. It was extremely difficult for a celestial being to defeat an immortal. Especially now that the powerhouses who had become immortals had begun to walk the physical sanctification system, their strength was even more terrifying after becoming immortals. The difficulty of a celestial being to defeat an immortal had also increased correspondingly. Looking at the 4 major continents, currently, there wasn't a single powerhouse who could defeat an immortal. Niu Feng sighed, then suddenly smiled and said, "The ones who are really close to breaking through to the true immortal realm should be in the heavenly court." "That's true." Zheng Fang nodded. He knew who Niu Feng was talking about. The strongest people in the Origin sect weren't the few elders, but Tess Jianfeng and Ningbo, who were in the heavenly court. The former naturally didn't need to be mentioned. Even in the past, his strength was one of the best in the Origin sect. Although the latter hadn't cultivated for long, as Qin Shujian's disciple, even the slightest benefit was enough for him to benefit endlessly. Not to mention, Ningbo still had a deity position, and others couldn't compare to him. At the mention of Test Jianfeng and Ningbo, Su Yuanming facepalmed. I don't know where Elder Ergu went. There hasn't been any news from him for so long. If he's still around, he should be one of the heavenly generals. He was the most helpless when it came to Zhang Ergu. Qin Shujian had taken a fancy to him for no reason and then nurtured him vigorously. However, the facts also proved that Zhang Ergu was indeed very talented. However, although he was talented, he didn't have any discipline. Just like now. He had been missing for so many years, and there was no news at all. If it weren't for the fact that the soul lamp he left in the sect hadn't been extinguished, Su Yuanming would have thought that he had died in some corner. I heard that someone saw him in the Sea of Death, but there's no way to confirm it. There's a ferocious beast riot in the Sea of Death now. The possibility of Elder Ergu being there isn't high. Su Yuanming shook his head slightly. At this moment, Qin Yuanbai's breakthrough had reached a critical moment. Chapter 831. After taking out the investiture of the gods, Qin Shujian released all the sealed star cores in the investiture of the gods. 373 star cores are enough to refine Zhou Tian's star map. As long as he had 365 star cores, he could refine Zhou Tian's star map. This was the most basic requirement. Now that he had 373 star cores, refining Zhou Tian's star map was naturally not a problem. First, he took out all the stars. Qin Shujian broke the seals on them. Suddenly, more than 300 star cores emitted a dense light. Then, he took out all the sealed star beast corpses in the investiture of the gods. There were a total of 13 star beast corpses that were 1 million feet long. Each star beast corpse emitted an aura that could crush the sky. Such an aura alone was enough to crush cultivators below the true immortal realm into powder. However, such a powerful pressure was useless in front of Qin Shujian. It was as easy as pie. Qin Shujian dug out the star cores in all the star beasts' bodies. Then, he made a gesture with both hands. Surging vital essence swept out in all directions with him as the center. The power of the void within 1,000,000 miles was all drawn over by the gesture. In the end, a wisp of fire was born from nothing and swallowed all the star beast corpses. To refine Zhou Tian's star map. Although it used 365 star cores as the foundation. In addition to the star cores, other materials were also needed to assist. Without a doubt, the star beast corpses were the best materials. After all, star beasts existed in the void and fed on stars. Their corpses had been tempered to a terrifying level. Such corpses. They were comparable to many powerful supreme treasures, and even surpassed them to a certain extent. Therefore, using the corpses of these star beasts as the foundation was much more useful than Qin Shujian spending a lot of effort to find other materials. No matter how strong the other materials were, there was a limit to how strong they were. The weakest star beast corpses in front of him were at least 3 middle true immortals, and there were even 3 upper true immortals. Such a foundation. It could already be said to be shocking. All the energy within 1,000,000 miles of the void was pulled over by Qin Shujian. This time, he didn't use the Vermilion Bird Emperor's innate divine fire because there was no need for it. Unlike the refining of the Heavenly Mirror and the Tiandi Bell, the level of Zhou Tian's star map was simply incomparable. This was because it was a supreme treasure that could deal with the Tao fruit at its peak. Unless the Vermilion Bird Emperor's godly fire could reach the level of a 9th level immortal, he wouldn't be qualified to participate in the creation of this treasure. Therefore, Qin Shujian was very straightforward. He did not use the innate godly fire to refine it. Instead, he used the methods of the Third Era to head to the outer realm and absorb the energy of the endless void to refine it. Although the innate godly fire was indeed the strongest fire, it had yet to reach the pinnacle, so it wasn't really that strong. There was the power of the endless void as a guide. He was confident that he could refine Zhou Tian's star map. At this moment, the dark fire had already swallowed all the star beasts. Qin Shujian looked calm and kept changing hand seals. His immortal will was also tightly locked, not daring to relax for even a moment. The outer realm was vast and boundless. The change in 1,000,000 miles of area didn't affect many places. In addition, Qin Shujian had set up an array as a cover, which even blocked the fluctuation. Therefore, no matter how big the commotion was, it didn't attract the attention of others. In fact, there were demons and cultivators of the 10,000 races that passed by this place by chance, but they didn't notice that there was a supreme expert refining a supreme treasure here at all. In the depths of the outer realm, Amo Shalua turned into a black shadow and crawled, still recovering from his injuries. The flesh and blood of the creatures that he had plundered in the last battle had almost been used up. The flesh and blood of those creatures were piled up in the void like a pool of blood. Then, an endless black shadow covered it like a terrifying beast was swallowing it. All of a sudden, a powerful god-destroying gale blew through the void. The black shadow shook and completely swallowed the remaining flesh and blood of the creatures. After a long time, the black shadow dissipated and turned back into a human body. The flesh and blood of the creatures of the vast 1,000 domains is really powerful. It actually healed my injuries completely. There was a hint of scarlet in Amo Shalua's dark eyes. The previous battle with Qin Shujian had caused him serious injuries. Now, after swallowing the flesh and blood of many creatures, all the injuries on his body had been completely healed. Not only that, Amo Shalua also felt that his cultivation had improved a little. If I can break into the vast 1,000 domains and plunder the origin of heaven and earth there, I can definitely break through to the sacred demon realm. Unfortunately, it's too difficult. Amo Shalua's gloomy voice sounded in the void. From the extent of swallowing the flesh and blood of the creatures, he could understand how powerful the origin of the vast 1,000 domains was. In fact, any creature of the vast 1,000 domains had the origin of heaven and earth in them. Because they were born in heaven and earth, they naturally had the origin of heaven and earth. But the difference was, the origin of heaven and earth in the creatures was too weak. Compared to the true origin of heaven and earth, it was simply incomparable. However, even such a weak origin of heaven and earth could heal the injuries of a top demon emperor and make a certain improvement in his realm. Based on this alone, Amo Shalua could understand how powerful the origin of heaven and earth of the vast 1,000 domains was. If it were in the past, he would have driven the army of the Amo Shalua clan to attack the vast 1,000 domains. But now he could not. The strength of the heavenly court was too strong. Amo Shalua had to admit that there was a certain gap between the strength of the void demons and the heavenly court. If they were to launch a large-scale attack, the 3 major clans of the void demons would most likely suffer heavy losses. And Amo Shalua thought of Qin Shujian, as well as Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali who attacked at the critical moment, and there was deep fear in his eyes. The strength of the Emperor of Heaven naturally did not need to be mentioned. But the strength of the 2 people who attacked at the last moment was also extraordinary. More importantly, the fact that the other party could successfully launch a sneak attack was extraordinary in itself. Especially that shocking blade, Amo Shalua still had a kind of illusion of fear. That blade. If it had slashed his body, then his injuries would not have healed so easily. Even someone as strong as Bakduo was seriously injured by that blade. Amo Shalua was confident in his strength, but he also understood that there was a gap between him and Bakduo. Bakduo was still fine. If it had been him, he was afraid that his end would be even more miserable. I originally thought that after the ancient times were destroyed, the strength of the vast 1,000 domains would decline to the extreme. I never thought that they would still be able to turn things around at the critical moment. Amo Shalua thought of something, and his eyes became even colder. Chapter 832. After taking out the investiture of the gods, Qin Shujian released all the sealed star cores in the investiture of the gods. 373 star cores are enough to refine Zhou Tian's star map. As long as he had 365 star cores, he could refine Zhou Tian's star map. This was the most basic requirement. Now that he had 373 star cores, refining Zhou Tian's star map was naturally not a problem. First, he took out all the stars. Qin Shujian broke the seals on them. Suddenly, more than 300 star cores emitted a dense light. Then, he took out all the sealed star beast corpses in the investiture of the gods. There were a total of 13 star beast corpses that were 1 million feet long. Each star beast corpse emitted an aura that could crush the sky. Such an aura alone was enough to crush cultivators below the true immortal realm into powder. However, such a powerful pressure was useless in front of Qin Shujian. It was as easy as pie. Qin Shujian dug out the star cores in all the star beasts' bodies. Then, he made a gesture with both hands. Surging vital essence swept out in all directions with him as the center. The power of the void within 1,000,000 miles was all drawn over by the gesture. In the end, a wisp of fire was born from nothing and swallowed all the star beast corpses. To refine Zhou Tian's star map. Although it used 365 star cores as the foundation. In addition to the star cores, other materials were also needed to assist. Without a doubt, the star beast corpses were the best materials. After all, star beasts existed in the void and fed on stars. Their corpses had been tempered to a terrifying level. Such corpses. They were comparable to many powerful supreme treasures, and even surpassed them to a certain extent. Therefore, using the corpses of these star beasts as the foundation was much more useful than Qin Shujian spending a lot of effort to find other materials. No matter how strong the other materials were, there was a limit to how strong they were. The weakest star beast corpses in front of him were at least 3 middle true immortals, and there were even 3 upper true immortals. Such a foundation. It could already be said to be shocking. All the energy within 1,000,000 miles of the void was pulled over by Qin Shujian. This time, he didn't use the Vermilion Bird Emperor's innate divine fire because there was no need for it. Unlike the refining of the Heavenly Mirror and the Tiandi Bell, the level of Zhou Tian's star map was simply incomparable. This was because it was a supreme treasure that could deal with Tao fruits at its peak. Unless the Vermilion Bird Emperor's godly fire could reach the level of a 9th level immortal, he wouldn't be qualified to participate in the creation of this treasure. Therefore, Qin Shujian was very straightforward. He did not use the innate godly fire to refine it. Instead, he used the methods of the Third Era to head to the outer realm and absorb the energy of the endless void to refine it. Although the innate godly fire was indeed the strongest fire, it had yet to reach the pinnacle, so it wasn't really that strong. It was guided by the endless power of the void. He was confident that he could refine Zhou Tian's star map. At this moment, the dark fire had already swallowed all the star beasts. Qin Shujian looked calm and kept changing hand seals. His immortal will was also tightly locked, not daring to relax for even a moment. The outer realm was vast and boundless. The change in 1,000,000 miles of area didn't affect many places. In addition, Qin Shujian had set up an array as a cover, which even blocked the fluctuation. Therefore, no matter how big the commotion was, it didn't attract the attention of others. In fact, there were demons and cultivators of the 10,000 races that passed by this place by chance, but they didn't notice that there was a supreme expert refining a supreme treasure here at all. In the depths of the outer realm, Amo Shalua turned into a black shadow and crawled, still recovering from his injuries. The flesh and blood of the creatures that he had plundered in the last battle had almost been used up. The flesh and blood of those creatures were piled up in the void like a pool of blood. Then, an endless black shadow covered it as if a terrifying giant beast was swallowing it. All of a sudden, a powerful god-destroying gale blew across the void. The black shadow shook and completely swallowed the remaining flesh and blood of the creatures. After a long time, the black shadow dissipated and turned back into a human body. The flesh and blood of the creatures of the vast 1,000 domains is really powerful. It actually healed my injuries completely. There was a hint of scarlet in Amo Shalua's dark eyes. The previous battle with Qin Shujian had caused him serious injuries. Now, after swallowing the flesh and blood of many creatures, all the injuries on his body had been completely healed. Not only that, Emo Xiaolua also felt that his cultivation had improved a little. If I can attack the vast 1,000 domains and plunder the origin of heaven and earth there, I can definitely break through to the sacred demon realm. Unfortunately, it's too difficult. Emo Xiaolua's gloomy voice sounded in the void. From the extent of swallowing the flesh and blood of the creatures, he could understand how powerful the origin of the vast 1,000 domains was. In fact, any creature of the vast 1,000 domains had the origin of heaven and earth in them. Because the creatures were born in heaven and earth, they naturally had the origin of heaven and earth. But the difference was, the origin of heaven and earth in the creatures was too weak. Compared to the true origin of heaven and earth, there was no comparison at all. However, even such a weak origin of heaven and earth could heal the injuries of a top demon emperor and make a certain improvement in his realm. With this alone, Emo Xiaolua could understand how powerful the origin of heaven and earth of the vast 1,000 domains was. If it were in the past, he would have already mobilized the army of the Emo Xiaolua clan to attack the vast 1,000 domains. But now he could not. The strength of the heavenly court was too strong. Emo Xiaolua had to admit that there was a certain gap between the strength of the void demons and the heavenly court. If they were to launch a large-scale attack, the three major clans of the void demons would most likely suffer heavy losses. Moreover, Emo Xiaolua thought of Qin Shujian, as well as Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali who attacked at the critical moment, and there was a deep fear in his eyes. The strength of the Emperor of Heaven naturally did not need to be mentioned. But the strength of the two who launched the sneak attack at the end was also extraordinary. More importantly, the fact that the other party could successfully launch a sneak attack was extraordinary in itself. Especially that shocking blade, Emo Xiaolua still had a kind of illusion of fear. That blade. If it had slashed his body, then his injuries would not have healed so easily. Even someone as strong as Bak Duo was seriously injured by that blade. Emo Xiaolua was confident in his strength, but he also understood that there was a gap between him and Bak Duo. Bak Duo was still fine. If it had been him, he was afraid that his end would have been even more miserable. I originally thought that after the ancient times were destroyed, the strength of the vast 1,000 domains would decline to the extreme. I never thought that they would still be able to turn things around at the critical moment. Emo Xiaolua thought of something, and his eyes became even colder. Chapter 833. While he was swimming in the river of time, Emo Xiaolua had peeped into the past of the vast 1,000 domains. However, the past they saw was completely different from the actual great 1,000 realms. He did not expect the vast 1,000 domains, which did not have any true immortals, would suddenly become so powerful. He could not figure it out. He could not figure it out at all. Until now, Emo Xiaolua was still in a state of confusion. However, he could vaguely guess. The changes of the vast 1,000 domains were definitely related to the Emperor of Heaven. Emo Xiaolua thought of Qin Shijian, and the killing intent in his heart surged. As his killing intent rose, the surrounding void also became austere. Right now, there is no hope to compete for the origin of the vast 1,000 domains. I can only wait for the arrival of the demon abyss and then find an opportunity dash. Emo Xiaolua had no intention of attacking the vast 1,000 domains. At least, there was no intention of attacking now. There was no other way. The strength of the vast 1,000 domains was too strong, and the three clans had no chance of winning at all. If the Boyle clan had not been destroyed, then it would have been fine. Thinking of the Boyle clan that died for no reason, Emo Xiaolua's eyes flickered, but he did not feel much. Death was death. It could only be said that the other party was unlucky. The vast 1,000 domains did not open earlier or later, but only after the Boyle clan was destroyed. If the barrier of heaven and earth had been opened earlier, then the blood sacrifice would not have been necessary. Soon, the matter of the Boyle clan was thrown to the back of Emo Xiaolua's mind. Now, he was already planning to change his way of thinking. Since the vast thousand domains and the demon abyss were both very strong, then he would let both sides suffer. When that time came, and Moshialua suddenly attacked, the possibility of success was very high. As long as he obtained the origin of the vast thousand domains, he was confident that he could break through to the sacred demon realm. Once he succeeded, who in the outer void would be his opponent? At that time, that was the true eternity. Suddenly, Moshialua looked in one direction. He saw that somewhere in the outer void, there was a black and red pool. Countless vengeful spirits were wailing in the pool, as if there were gods and demons roaring. An extremely evil aura was brewing there, as if it would break through the shackles of the pool at any time. At this moment, there were countless bubbles in the pool, as if something was breathing. Not long after, the black-red pond water instantly became agitated. A huge whirlpool rose up from there, causing a huge tremor. When the whirlpool appeared, a boundless black shadow rose from the bottom of the pool and quickly covered the entire pool. The shadow expanded and spread. When it reached its limit, it suddenly shrank back and revealed its human form. Boom! The moment his body condensed, an earth-shattering aura rose from his body and spread out in all directions, shaking the void and cracking it. Is this the realm of the Demon Emperor? Ively was intoxicated. He felt the surging power in his body. He had the illusion that billions of void spaces were under his control. The Demon Emperor. This was the power of a Devil Emperor. Even though he used to be a top demon king, he didn't really understand how big the gap between them was until he broke through to the Demon Emperor realm. As a Demon Emperor, Ively had a premonition that if he wanted to kill his former self, it would not take him much effort at all. Such a transformation. It could be said to be terrifying. Waking up from his surging power, Ively lowered his head to look at the devil's pool below. His eyes were burning. Without entering the devil's pool, one would never be able to understand how powerful it was. He had stayed at the top Demon King realm for so many years, but after entering the devil's pool, he only used a short time to break through. The surging energy contained within was truly astonishing to the extreme. If he could stay in the devil's pool, Ively was confident that he could reach the top Demon Emperor realm within 100 years. However, he knew. He could only think about it. The devil's pool's power came from the void. After he absorbed and broke through, he had consumed some. If he continued to absorb, he could indeed break through. However, the devil's pool's power would be exhausted. The Demon Emperor would definitely not agree to this. All of a sudden, Ively's heart was alarmed. When he tilted his head to look in one direction, he happened to meet a pair of dark eyes. That pair of eyes seemed to come from the deepest part of the darkness. Just a simple look was enough to make Ively tremble. The joy of breaking through disappeared. Ively greets the Demon Emperor! Ively didn't hesitate and immediately bowed. After he broke through to the Demon Emperor realm, there was no one else who could give him such pressure except for the Demon Emperor. And Moshialua said indifferently, "Since you've broken through, then leave the devil's pool. There are things in the clan that the Demon Emperor needs to deal with. It's better to return early." "Yes, sir." Ively didn't dare to refuse. By the time he raised his head, he realized that the two beams of light had disappeared without him noticing. At this moment, Ively finally dared to stand up. His nervous heart slowly calmed down. Demon Emperor! Thinking of that pair of eyes that terrified him, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He thought that after breaking through to the Demon Emperor realm, he could truly control his own life. But now, Ively was silent. The Demon Emperor was strong, but it was only relatively speaking. Compared to the Demon Emperor, there was no comparison. To be honest, before this, Ively had never met the Demon Emperor. First, it was because the Demon Emperor was always sleeping. Second, his level wasn't high enough. A small demon king didn't have the qualifications to talk to the Demon Emperor. Until now, Ively was the one who truly came into contact with the existence of the Demon Emperor. He also understood how big the gap between their strength was. The joy of breaking through to the Demon Emperor realm and the illusion of being invincible had disappeared without a trace after talking with Xiaoluo. After taking a deep look at the Devil's Pool, he flew away. Xiaoluo had spoken. Although Ively coveted the Devil's Pool, he didn't dare to enter it without permission. Now, the first thing he had to do was to return to the Xiaoluo clan. Other things, they could all be put aside for later. The Devil's Pool wasn't too far away from the Xiaoluo clan's territory. Ively only used half a day to return to the Xiaoluo clan's territory. When he entered the continent, that familiar aura caused some different emotions to surge up in him. He didn't stop at all. A leaf flew into the air and directly entered the main hall. At this moment, there was only one Demon Emperor, Longfellow, in the main hall. As Ively entered, Longfellow also opened his eyes and saw the visitor before him, who was shrouded in darkness. Chapter 834. Ively? Longfellow's expression was a little uncertain. After breaking through to become a Demon Emperor, his temperament and other aspects had changed greatly. At that moment, he couldn't recognize him. Seeing Longfellow speak, Ively smiled faintly. Demon Emperor Longfellow, long time no see! He was different from when he faced the Demon Emperors in the past. Now, he had enough confidence to face Longfellow directly. Both of them were Demon Emperors. Even if the other party was older and more powerful, that was all there was to it. Ively felt that even if he was slightly weaker than Ively, it wouldn't be too much. Under such circumstances, he had enough confidence. Hearing this, Longfellow finally confirmed Ively's identity. So, you've successfully broken through. That's good. Now, my Maxiaro clan has another Demon Emperor. May I know where Yervis is? Ively looked around the hall, his tone filled with curiosity. He's in seclusion. Longfellow frowned imperceptibly, but he still answered. Ively nodded slightly. Then, he walked straight to the center of the hall and sat down. Longfellow frowned again. That's Yervis's seat. Your seat should be there. Then, he pointed to the seat opposite him. That was Troy's seat. But now, Troy had fallen. Naturally, Ively, who had broken through to become a Demon Emperor, should be in charge. To this, Ively didn't care. We're all Demon Emperors. Why is there a need to differentiate so clearly? These seats have never been fixed. Who can sit and who can't? Of course. Longfellow didn't say anything. An indifferent voice came from all directions. The two Demon Emperors turned their heads instinctively, looking outside the hall. At this moment, someone was walking over slowly. It looked like a normal scene, but in the eyes of the two Demon Emperors, it felt like the other party was walking in the darkness, swallowing their vision. Such a change greatly shocked the two Demon Emperors. Especially Longfellow. He seemed to have thought of something. Then, he revealed a look of disbelief. You've broken through! The breakthrough that Longfellow mentioned was naturally not a simple one. Moreover, what kind of breakthrough could make a top Demon Emperor reveal such an expression? Any smart person could guess it. Ively, who had just sat down, stiffened his face. He looked at Yervis, who was walking in front of him, and a huge sense of terror welled up in his heart. That feeling. Ively almost thought that he was still the Demon King in the past, and Yervis was still the high and mighty Demon King. No! Impossible! Ively roared madly in his heart. He didn't believe that Yervis's strength would be so terrifying. They were both Demon Emperors, so why was the other party so powerful? Ively was in disbelief. In his heart, he was roaring and howling, but at the same time, he was terrified. Yervis looked at him quietly, as if the place where he stood was the center of the darkness that could drown everything. On the other side, Longfellow stood up from his seat and looked at the side of Yervis's face. The shock in his heart made him speechless. At this moment, boundless darkness rose from Yervis's body and spread towards Ively. He watched the darkness corrode. Ively just sat in his seat without moving. He looked like he wouldn't change his expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. But if one looked at him seriously, one could see how intense the fear in this new demon king's heart was. When the darkness spread, Iveli felt that his divine soul was frozen. Not to mention resisting, he didn't even have the right to stand up. At this moment, he understood. Yelvis was definitely not as simple as a demon king. Combined with what Longfellow had said earlier, he came to a conclusion that even he found hard to believe. "You are a demon, Emperor!" Iveli used all his strength and spat out a few words with difficulty. His eyes were filled with fear. Demon Emperor! He had already broken through to the Demon Emperor realm. For countless years, there were only 4 demon emperors in the Void Demons. After Boyle died, there were only 3 demon emperors left. But now Yelvis had broken through. This was something that Iveli didn't expect. Yelvis's expression was still indifferent. He looked at Iveli as if he was looking at a dead person. "Anyone can sit on the seat. But whether or not you can sit on it steadily depends on your own strength. Today I'll teach you a lesson. If you don't have enough strength, don't try to touch things that you shouldn't touch. Otherwise, you might get yourself killed." While speaking, the darkness was about to swallow Iveli. The boundless darkness was like vines that climbed onto the throne. Half of Iveli's body was covered by the vines. Only his head was left. According to this trend, Iveli would be completely swallowed in no time. Longfellow saw this and opened his mouth. But in the end, he didn't say anything. He understood Yelvis's character. Iveli's actions just now were a little too arrogant. Now that he had broken through to the Demon Emperor realm, and wanted to kill him, Longfellow had nothing to say. Of course. The main reason was because Yelvis had broken through to the Demon Emperor realm. He didn't dare to say anything. After all, he was just a demon king. No matter how strong a demon king was, there was still a huge gap between him and the demon emperor. If he angered Yelvis, even with their previous friendship, Longfellow felt that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. Suddenly, the dark vines shattered inch by inch. Iveli, who was about to be swallowed, was like a drowning person who was saved. He sat on the throne and panted heavily. There was fear in his eyes and also the illusion that he had just survived a disaster. When Iveli was saved, darkness fell. It was unknown when Emoshialoa had already appeared in the hall. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the scene in the hall quietly. Seeing this, Iveli hurriedly stood up from the throne and bowed to Emoshialoa together with Longfellow. "Demon Emperor!" Yelvis slowly turned around and saw Emoshialoa standing there with a faint smile on his face. "Demon Emperor!" It was a simple greeting, but he didn't bow like he did before. Emoshialoa's face was calm. He wasn't angry because of this. "I didn't expect you to have broken through to the Demon Emperor realm. It's something worth celebrating. Demon Emperor, you flatter me." Yelvis smiled faintly. "I just broke through. If I want to compare with Demon Emperor, I'm still far behind." Chapter 835. If it was in the past, you wouldn't have the guts to stand shoulder to shoulder with me. Compared with the past, you've made great progress, Emoshialoa said indifferently. After he finished speaking, his expression suddenly became cold and stern. "But what surprised me was that you dared to kill the Demon Emperor in the clan without permission. Could it be that after breaking through to the Demon Emperor, you don't put me in your eyes?" After saying that, the scene had become dignified. Longfellow's face suddenly changed. Emoshialoa was obviously angry. If the 2 demon emperors really fought, it would be a catastrophe for the clan. Not to mention the other clansmen. Even he himself was not sure if he could protect himself under the aftermath of such a strong battle. Just when Longfellow's mind was trembling, Yelvis's face did not change at all. "Demon Emperor, you're too serious. I'm just teaching him a lesson. No matter what, I'm the emperor of the Emoshialoa clan. Iveli is just a new demon emperor. What qualifications does he have to snatch my position? This lesson is just to let him understand himself. Even if the Demon Emperor doesn't take action, I won't take his life. While talking, Ylvis paused and then said, If the Demon Emperor is dissatisfied with this matter and wants to take action for him, I have nothing to say. But I've done my best for the clan. What qualifications does a new Demon Emperor have to stand shoulder to shoulder with me? Dark aura filled the air. His eyes were full of disdain for Eveli. Emoshalua did not reply, just looked at Ylvis indifferently. After a long time, he waved his hand, and Eveli was suddenly struck by lightning. His body exploded in the air and flew out directly. You're right. Being disrespectful to the Demon Emperor should be punished. The Demon Emperor is really reasonable. Ylvis also smiled. Emoshalua slowly retracted his hand, looked at him and said, You've broken through to the Demon Emperor. It's not suitable for you to be the Demon Emperor. If you don't leave the Emoshalua clan, you can rule the clan with me. But if you want to leave the Emoshalua clan and establish your own clan, I will not stop you. The Demon Emperor has given me a new life. I'm not an ungrateful person. Naturally, I'm willing to stay in the clan. That's good. There was finally a smile on Emoshalua's face. This is not the place to talk. Come with me. All right. The bodies of the two Demon Emperors suddenly disappeared as if they had never appeared. On the other side, Eve struggled to stand up from the ground. The wave of Emoshalua's hand just now had almost destroyed his divine soul. It hadn't been long since he made the breakthrough, and his cultivation base had also become unstable. Fortunately, Emoshalua was also merciful. He didn't really kill Ively. Otherwise, Ively would have died on the spot. Longfellow glanced at him indifferently, and shook his head inwardly before returning to his throne. It was good to be taught a lesson. Otherwise, this new Demon Emperor would really think that he was qualified to stand shoulder to shoulder with a veteran Demon Emperor like him. Only by revealing the disparity between them would they be able to understand. It was just a new beginning for him to break through to Demon Emperor. Ylvis's breakthrough did not cause any big commotion. Except for the few Demon Emperors of the Mose Halo clan, no one else knew about Ylvis's breakthrough. They didn't know. It turned out that the Mose Halo clan had one less Demon Emperor and one more Demon Emperor. Somewhere in the void, Qin Shujian was still refining the corpse of the Star Beast. He absorbed the energy of the void and transformed it into flames, which were much more violent than the divine fire that the Vermilion Bird Emperor used. Even a corpse that was as strong as an upper 3 grades was gradually melting under the burning of the raging flames. The corpse of the Star Beast melted. It turned into a crystal-clear liquid like a river. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was something like starlight embellished in the crystal-clear liquid, which looked very gorgeous. After all the corpses of the Star Beasts had melted, Qin Shujian suddenly withdrew all the flames. His hands formed different seals, and his vital energy wrapped around the liquid. Mysterious runes were born from the void and merged into the liquid. The level of mystery of those runes was far beyond the level of the Great Thousand World. If a Grand Master blacksmith was here to observe, he would be shocked to find that he couldn't understand a single rune. Refining. Then the merging of the runes. These were just the beginning steps. But even these steps consumed a large amount of Qin Shujian's vital energy. If it were any other Ninth Heaven immortal, their vital energy would have been exhausted when refining the corpse of the Star Beast. But for Qin Shujian, who had an inner world, such consumption was still within the range of what he could bear. Time passed. It was difficult to detect the changes in time in the outer realm. After the runes merged, the liquid was compressed to the extreme step by step. The entire process. It looked very simple. However, it was easy to imagine how difficult it would be to compress such a vast amount of liquid into an extremely small size. Then, Qin Shujian placed the star core into it again. Suddenly, Zhou Tian's star map, which had already taken shape, began to surge violently. Waves of surging power erupted from inside, accompanied by shocking beast roars. All of a sudden, a phantom of a star beast walked out of it, and roared furiously. Then, it rushed towards Qin Shujian to kill him. It was just a simple attack, but it shattered the void. In the face of such power, Qin Shujian's expression was calm, and he was not moved at all. But just as the attack was about to arrive, he threw out a punch. Boom! The terrifying power crushed, and the Star Beast Phantom was instantly shattered. Evil beast, you were not my match when you were alive, and you dared to be so arrogant after death. Qin Shujian had a disdainful smile on his face. With his strength, even when the Star Beast was alive, he could directly suppress it. The phantom that was born now only contained a little bit of the power of the Star Beast in its heyday, and it could barely step into the true immortal level. In the face of such an attack, in Qin Shujian's eyes, it was no different from a joke. When the first Star Beast was suppressed and destroyed, soon, the second and third Star Beasts walked out of Zhou Tian's star map. Those Star Beasts roared angrily, bared their fangs and brandished their claws, and attacked Qin Shujian. There were no accidents. All the Star Beast phantoms that walked out were all suppressed by Qin Shujian with one hand. There was no wind or waves during the whole process. But when the aftermath of the power spread out, it would cause the embryonic form of Zhou Tian's star map to fluctuate, and the runes inside were reflected. It's about to reach the critical moment. After suppressing all the Star Beast phantoms, Qin Shujian's eyes burst with light. It was unknown when it started. In the void, there was already an oppressive aura pervading. P.S. The public account. The white fold dies quickly. Will be updated later. Chapter 836. Was there a lightning tribulation in the void? This question, if it was to the cultivators of the 10,000 races, their answer would definitely be the same, no. Because no one had ever encountered a lightning tribulation in the void outside the realm. Even experts at the limit of the heaven-being realm had no way to become an immortal in the void outside the realm. They could only return to the great thousand world to undergo the tribulation. Over time, almost everyone acknowledged that there was no lightning tribulation in the void outside the realm. However, this publicly acknowledged fact was now directly broken. Lightning tribulation! In the battlefield outside the realm, Duan Sun looked at the overwhelming darkness above his head and the occasional flashing lightning. He could not help but be stunned. Lightning tribulation. There was a lightning tribulation in the battlefield outside the realm. He almost thought that it was a fiend from the void that had invaded. However, the Tiandi bell that suppressed the battlefield outside the realm had not moved until now. It was obvious that it had nothing to do with the void demon, because the Tiandi bell had existed for so long. As long as a powerful void demon approached, it would send out a warning. Duan Sun still had a lot of faith in the use of this supreme treasure. Therefore, since the current phenomenon was not related to the void demon, it should be a lightning tribulation without a doubt. At this moment, not only was Duan Sun shocked, the other cultivators of the 10,000 races were also shocked. They looked up at the black tribulation clouds in the sky. The shock in their hearts could be imagined. Without any hesitation, Duan Sun immediately sent the news back. He was a subject of the Great Xiao. Therefore, the news was not sent to the heavenly court, but to the Great Xiao. After sending the news back, Duan Sun crushed another jade talisman. Immediately, all the garrison forces in the city he was in entered a state of martial law. One by one, powerful cultivators walked out of seclusion and came to Duan Sun's side. General, what happened? A heaven-being expert asked. Duan Sun shook his head. I don't know what happened for the time being. A lightning tribulation suddenly appeared in the void outside the realm, and the tribulation clouds are vast, covering the entire battlefield outside the realm. In order to avoid accidents, martial law was immediately imposed. Then inform everyone not to leave the city without permission or act rashly. We will wait and see. Understood. Those experts nodded. They were from the Great Xiao. This city was also a city of the Great Xiao, and Duan Sun was the city lord. It could be said that, unless the Zhao Emperor himself came, Otherwise, Duansun's status would be the highest in this city. While the Great Zhao Empire was under martial law, the cities of the Qianyuan sacred ground were also under martial law. Qin Yuanbai, who had just broken through to the true immortal realm, left the Qianyuan sacred ground and entered the extraterritorial battlefield. Holy Master! Greetings, Holy Lord! The strong cultivators of the Qianyuan sacred ground all bowed to greet him. Qin Yuanbai waved his hand and looked at the scene in the sky with his hands behind his back, his expression extremely solemn. What the hell happened? I'm not sure. Suddenly, tribulation clouds covered the Outerium battlefield. I suspect that an expert might be undergoing tribulation to become an immortal. Or perhaps some supreme treasure has appeared. Fang Xinglan shook his head. It's impossible for someone to ascend to immortal ascension. The power of the immortal ascension tribulation shouldn't be this strong. If it's the birth of a supreme treasure, then it's possible. Qin Yuanbai asked in a deep voice. Have you sent anyone to find out the reason? Hearing this, Fang Xinglan said, We've already sent people, but there's no news for now. We'll be prepared. Qin Yuanbai suddenly sighed. He had already broken through to the true immortal realm, but in front of this tribulation cloud, he still felt endless oppression. It was as if as long as the thunder tribulation fell, he would turn into ashes. It could be seen that the existence that triggered the thunder tribulation was definitely not that simple. To be honest, Qin Yuanbai had only felt this level of thunder tribulation in the Rule Thunder tribulation. However, the tribulation cloud in front of him was different from the ordinary Rule Thunder tribulation. He wasn't sure what the origin of this tribulation cloud was. Troubled times. Fang Xinglan also sighed. Now, he was also under a lot of pressure. This pressure. One came from the tribulation cloud above his head, and the other came from Qin Yuanbai beside him. Now that Qin Yuanbai had broken through to the true immortal realm, he was still at the diviner realm. The gap between them had been silently widened. Qin Yuanbai seemed to have noticed something and glanced at him sideways. It won't take long for you to break through to the true immortal realm, right? It's hard to say. Maybe there's still a few years left. Fang Xinglan shook his head, his expression not looking too good. Qin Yuanbai said, If you can't do the formation Tao, don't force it. How can the third realm be so easy to break through? Moreover, even if you break through to the third realm, your strength is only equivalent to a mighty figure. If you can rely on your own strength to prove your Tao, it's much better than painstakingly searching for the formation Tao. In his opinion, if Fang Xinglan had not been specializing in the formation Tao, he might have been a true immortal now. The other party's strength was not bad, and his talent was not bad either. It was only because of the formation Tao that he had been distracted. In the face of Qin Yuanbai's persuasion, Fang Xinglan forced a smile on his face. Everyone has different pursuits. The Heavenly Array sect focuses on the formation Tao. The fact that the Emperor of Heaven could break through to such a realm already shows that there's a path ahead of the formation Tao. Fine. Qin Yuanbai stopped persuading. Since Fang Xinglan insisted, he had nothing to say. Just as the other party said, everyone had different pursuits. He pursued the true immortal Tao, while Fang Xinglan pursued the peak of the formation Tao. It was hard to say who was right and who was wrong. Perhaps there would really be a day Fang Xinglan could break his own limits and reach the peak of the formation Tao. The first Grand Master to reach the third realm can obtain a deity position in the heavenly court. Now, the only one who can compete with you for this deity position is the one from the great Zhao dynasty. If you can reach the third realm before him and obtain the deity position in the heavenly court, it might be of great benefit to your future. Qin Yuanbai thought for a while and added, I naturally understand what the Sacred Lord means. Fang Xinglan smiled. This was also his pursuit. He would first break through the third realm and enter the heavenly court to obtain the deity position. Then, he would see if he could borrow the power of the deity position to directly break through the threshold of Grand Master and advance to the legendary Saint realm. Currently, the formation Tao of the 10,000 races was declining. Only the human race's formation Tao was passable. But among the human race, there were only a handful of second-round formation grandmasters. For now, other than Fan Xinglan himself, only the great Zhao imperial astronomer had a second-round formation grandmaster. Just as the two of them were conversing, the extraterritorial battlefield was already under martial law. The tribulation clouds that covered the entire extraterritorial battlefield suddenly shook. Endless streams of light flickered within like silver snakes. Very soon, a monstrous roar resounding throughout the entire extraterritorial battlefield. It was as if a lightning tribulation was descending somewhere. But in the extraterritorial battlefield, one could only hear the thunder and was unable to see the lightning tribulation descend. Chapter 837. The news of a heavenly tribulation appearing in the extraterritorial battlefield was sent back to the Great Thousand World. Many heavenly court powerhouses rushed to the extraterritorial battlefield at the same time. They all wanted to find out what was going on. In a short period of time, a large number of cultivators from the 10,000 races gathered. One by one, the perfected immortals who were cultivating in seclusion walked out and entered the battlefield. A sudden heavenly tribulation. It attracted the attention of all the powerhouses from the 10,000 races. At this moment, the 5 imperial emperors were guarding the extraterritorial battlefield. Imperial Emperor Zhongyuan is knowledgeable. Do you know the origin of the heavenly tribulation? The demon emperor turned his head and looked at Emperor Zhao. As soon as he finished speaking, the other powerhouses also looked at Emperor Zhao. Just as the demon emperor said. Among the imperial emperors present, no one was more knowledgeable than Imperial Emperor Zhongyuan. Although the human race had declined for millions of years, Emperor Zhao obviously had other opportunities. He had obtained the inheritance of the ancient heavenly court. It had already spread like wildfire. To many powerhouses, it was not a secret that was difficult to find out. Emperor Zhao said, "Compared to me, the Eastern god of war should know more about this." After he finished speaking, he looked at Xiao Chengfeng, who was silent at the side. Now that there was a sudden change in the extraterritorial battlefield. Not only were the 5 imperial emperors present, but the 4 gods of war were also present. Hearing that, Xiao Chengfeng said calmly, "The universe has laws, but in fact, the laws of the universe are invisible and not everyone is qualified to reach them. Below the laws of the universe, there are different laws. Among them, the Great Thousand World and the extraterritorial void have their own laws. The source of these laws is the universe. The birth of the heavenly tribulation comes from the laws. The Great Thousand World has laws, so the heavenly tribulation will be born. The extraterritorial void also has laws, so the heavenly tribulation exists in the extraterritorial void. It's just that the heavenly tribulation in the extraterritorial void is not that easy to trigger, so not many people know about it." After a simple explanation, Xiao Chengfeng paused and continued. "If someone can comprehend the laws of the void and use it to become an immortal, there will naturally be a heavenly tribulation. However, the power of the immortal ascension tribulation can't be so strong. If he was really that powerful, then no matter how talented he was, it would be impossible for him to pass the tribulation successfully. According to my conjecture, a supreme treasure must have appeared, or someone must have refined some kind of supreme treasure to attract the heavenly tribulation. Speaking of which, the Emperor of Heaven still hasn't shown himself." Xiao Chengfeng smiled meaningfully. When the other gods heard this, realization dawned upon them. They didn't know much about the extraterritorial void, far less than Xiao Chengfeng, the reincarnation of immortal Lord Haotsang. If the source of the heavenly tribulation was due to the refinement of supreme treasures, then he could basically guess the reason. However, the Dog King said in a low voice, "What kind of treasure could cause such a commotion?" Even the Sky Mirror and the Tiandi Bell did not cause such a commotion. Could it be that the treasure that the Emperor of Heaven refined this time is even more terrifying than the Heavenly Mirror and the Tiandi Bell? In his eyes, the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell were already top-notch supreme treasures. None of the divine weapons owned by the 10,000 races could compare to the two supreme treasures of the heavenly court. The Dog King found it hard to imagine. If it was a supreme treasure that was more powerful than both of them, what would it be like? Xiao Chengfeng shook his head. It's hard to say. The Emperor of Heaven's methods are too mysterious. It's not something that you and I can guess. Now that the Emperor of Heaven has entered the extraterritorial void, the heavenly tribulation has covered it not long after. If it's not related to him, no one else would be able to cause such a commotion. Usually, the extraterritorial void was very peaceful. Not long after Qin Shujian entered the extraterritorial void, the heavenly tribulation appeared. Xiao Chengfeng would never believe that it had nothing to do with the Emperor of Heaven. But just as the Dog King thought, he also found it hard to imagine that the other party could really refine the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell. After all, those two supreme treasures were already comparable to the sixth tribulation Zhu Bing. If it really surpassed those two supreme treasures, wouldn't it be entering the ranks of the seventh tribulation Zhu Bing? Thinking of this, Xiao Chengfeng was also shocked. At this moment, the sound of explosions could be heard from the sky. The earth-shattering aura made the hearts of everyone in the extraterritorial battlefield heavy. At the same time, the heavenly tribulation clouds that covered the extraterritorial battlefield also made many people curious. Unlike the great wide world, the extraterritorial battlefield seemed to have no end. Now, the heavenly tribulation clouds were floating above their heads, but no one was sure how high they were. After seeing the heavenly tribulation clouds move, some people suddenly had the urge to explore. Zhao Emperor looked at the heavenly tribulation clouds silently for a long time, then turned to look at the scene outside the extraterritorial battlefield. There were endless black shadows surging there. Pass down the order. Let the 10,000 races enter a state of alert. If the heavenly tribulation clouds are really caused by the Emperor of Heaven, then the three major clans of the extraterritorial void will definitely sense it. They may make a move at the critical moment, either to stop the supreme treasure from being born or to launch a surprise attack on the extraterritorial battlefield. The current situation was unclear, but it was a good thing for the three major clans. If the heavenly tribulation was really caused by the supreme treasure refined by Qin Shujian, the spies of the 10,000 races had already been sent out, but there was no news at all. It was impossible for the heavenly court to help him transcend the tribulation. Therefore, the only thing they could do now was to put the 10,000 races on alert to prevent the extraterritorial battlefield from taking this opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Hearing this, the other immortals did not object, but passed down the order. What Zhao Emperor said was also their inner concern. Although the extraterritorial battlefield was calm now, in fact, the three major clans had long wanted to break through the extraterritorial battlefield and kill their way into the great wide world. The reason why there was no movement was because they had not found the right time. Now that they were really given a chance, the three major clans would not be willing to be left out. All of a sudden, the battlefield entered a state of full alert. When the battlefield was under martial law, the three major clans of the extraterritorial void also received the news immediately. Endless black shadows crept forward. Bach had completely awakened from his deep sleep. Heavenly tribulation. How many years has it been since a heavenly tribulation appeared in the void? Now, a heavenly tribulation has descended again. Bach's dark eyes seemed to pierce through hundreds of millions of miles of the void, trying to find the source of the heavenly tribulation. He immediately looked in the direction of the extraterritorial battlefield. For countless years, the heavenly tribulation had only appeared a few times in the void, and every time it had something to do with the great, wide world. This time, the heavenly tribulation had appeared again, and Bach was almost certain that it had something to do with the great, wide world. Chapter 838. Just as Bahito's gaze shot over Dong, the Tiandi bell that was suppressing the extraterritorial battlefield let out a heavy sound at this moment. causing the void to shake and crack, attracting everyone's attention. What's going on? The Tiandi bell is ringing. A void demon is attacking! The cultivators of the myriad clans panicked. Usually, the Tiandi bell would ring occasionally, which meant that a void demon had entered the extraterritorial battlefield. Many cultivators of the myriad clans were used to this. But it was different now. The heavenly tribulation covered the extraterritorial battlefield. Everyone was already in a state of panic. With the sudden sound of the Tiandi bell, they were like birds that were startled by the twang of a bow. One could imagine how affected they were. Baido looked over. The 5 great imperial emperors and the 4 great war gods all sensed it at the same time. They had cultivated to their current level. Any one of them was at least at the 4th level of the immortal realm. Although there was still a long way to go before they reached the 3rd level of the true immortal realm, it was not difficult to sense Bahido's undisguised gaze. Demon Emperor! Emperor Zhao's expression was solemn, but he did not show any fear. As for the other immortals and gods, their expressions were not very good. Some demon emperors suddenly cast their gazes over. One didn't need to think to know what this meant. If they did not notice it for a moment, it might attract the attack of the 3 great clans. On the other side, the moment the Tiandi bell rang, that ray of light was directly shattered by the bell. Baido slowly retracted his gaze. A strange expression flashed across his dark eyes. What a powerful treasure! It can shatter my gaze with just its instinct. No wonder no clansmen have been able to approach the extraterritorial battlefield for so long. He had some understanding of the Tiandi bell's existence. However, because he had been recuperating from his injuries, he did not pay too much attention to it. Now that he had truly witnessed the power of the Tiandi bell, Baido finally understood why the other clansmen could not approach the extraterritorial battlefield. It could shatter his gaze. Such strength was at least at the true immortal realm. Moreover, he had only just looked at the extraterritorial battlefield, but he had already attracted the attention of the Tiandi bell. In terms of perception, it had already reached a terrifying level. He wanted to get closer without anyone noticing. Even Bach wasn't 100% confident in this. Such a treasure is indeed shocking, but that's all there is to it. Bach's eyes were cold, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. Tiandi bell's strength was only relative. In his eyes, if he really wanted to destroy it, it would not be difficult. What really attracted Bahido's attention was still that strange heavenly tribulation. As far as the eye could see, the extraterritorial battlefield was indeed covered by tribulation clouds. However, Baido did not see any heavenly tribulation descending. From this, it could be seen that the heavenly tribulation did not originate from the battlefield outside. His glance just now. He had already seen through the entire outer region battlefield. If it's not in the extraterritorial battlefield, then it should be somewhere near the extraterritorial battlefield. The tribulation clouds have covered the entire area, so they shouldn't be too far away. He looked out again, but this time, he was not looking at the extraterritorial battlefield. He was looking at the area near the extraterritorial battlefield. However, with just a glance he was stunned on the spot. Because the place he looked at was also covered by tribulation clouds. After a long time, Bach retracted his gaze. Hiss! He couldn't help but take a deep breath. If the tribulation clouds only covered the extraterritorial battlefield, then it would be fine. No matter how strong the heavenly tribulation was, it was still within a range that could be controlled. But now, the area that he looked at was covered by tribulation clouds. Bach did a rough calculation. Those areas were at least hundreds of millions of miles wide. Such a vast tribulation cloud, but he still couldn't find the place where the heavenly tribulation would descend. That was somewhat shocking. Bach's expression suddenly became serious. The strength of a top-notch demon emperor allowed him to see the endless void, but it did not mean that he could see the entire universe. Immediately, Bach left the place where he was sleeping and headed towards the location of the heavenly tribulation. He wanted to find out the source of the heavenly tribulation. However, after leaving the place where he was sleeping, Bach stopped and changed direction, heading towards the Mo-Zyro clan. He suddenly felt that it wasn't safe for him to go there alone. The current void was no longer the void that was dominated by the void demons in the past. If he really encountered the supreme experts of the Heavenly Court, Bach didn't have the confidence to escape unscathed. At this time, the best thing to do was to pull the other demon emperors together. In any case, as long as he had enough people, even if the experts of the Heavenly Court ambushed him, he would be able to retreat safely. On the other side of the endless void, the dark red lightning was like a destructive dragon that constantly bombarded down, as if it was trying to stop something that shouldn't be born. Wherever the lightning passed, everything turned to dust. Those living within 1,000,000 miles of the heavenly tribulation had been completely annihilated the moment the lightning struck. The target of the lightning. It was an array diagram that seemed to contain an endless river of stars. The array diagram seemed to be only a few feet in size, but if one looked at it carefully, it seemed to be infinitely large. There was a river of stars in the array diagram, and the stars were as bright as fire, emitting a terrifying aura. At this moment, when the heavenly tribulation descended, the formation map shook a little. Immediately, a solid illusory star beast walked out from it. The astral beast roared at the sky and punched at the lightning with its fists. The two forces collided, instantly destroying the void and turning it into a destructive turbulence. In the next moment, the astral beast collapsed, and the lightning continued to fall on the array diagram. The array diagram trembled violently. The river of stars inside shook violently, and some of the stars dimmed, as if they would collapse at any moment. But soon, a mysterious power emerged and restored the dimmed stars to their original brightness. Not long after, a second bolt of lightning fell. Compared to the previous one, this one was even more terrifying, and its destructive power was vast and mighty. As if sensing the threat of death, astral beasts walked out of the array diagram. One head, 2 heads, 3 star beast phantoms that were millions of feet tall appeared in the void and pounced on Lei Ting. Boom! The battle and the tribulation didn't stop for a moment. Qin Shujian had already retreated a distance, silently watching the scene in front of him with his hands behind his back. Zhou Tian's array diagram was almost complete by now. However, any supreme treasure that was born had to be tempered by the heavenly tribulation. Because only by going through the tribulation and absorbing the power of laws could it be strengthened. Chapter 839. The heavenly tribulation continued to fall. The aura of Zhou Tian's star map became stronger and stronger, and the star beasts that walked out seemed to be endless, constantly fighting against the thunderbolts. Every time a star beast collapsed, the thunderbolts would be weakened. When they completely fell, not only did they not destroy Zhou Tian's star map, but there was also a trace of thunderbolt power in the galaxy inside. Compared to the great wide world, the laws of the outer realm are the most compatible with the laws of the universe. The heavenly tribulation here also has a stronger law power. Being able to transcend the tribulation here is very beneficial to Zhou Tian's star map. Qin Shujian looked at the falling thunderbolts and Zhou Tian's star map, which was getting stronger and stronger, with a gratified smile on his face. He came to the outer realm to refine Zhou Tian's star map. His main purpose was to come here to transcend the tribulation. Although, in the great wide world, he could let Zhou Tian's star map transcend the tribulation, but there were many differences. First of all, the power of the heavenly tribulation. Refining Zhou Tian's star map was different from refining the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell. This was a supreme treasure that completely surpassed the two, so the destructive power of the heavenly tribulation was far from what the previous heavenly tribulations could compare to. If he transcended the tribulation in the great wide world, the power of the heavenly tribulation would definitely break through the astral wind layer. When that time came, even a perfected immortal would be in danger of dying if he was affected. After all, the power of the heavenly tribulation had already reached the level of threatening a third-level perfected immortal, and as time passed, it was still gradually increasing. Qin Shujian had a premonition that if the heavenly tribulation continued for a while, even he would have to temporarily avoid it. At that level, the heavenly tribulation would be the source of destruction anywhere. Of course, the more powerful the heavenly tribulation was, the higher the level of Zhou Tian's star map. Only those with a sufficiently high rank could unleash the full power of the massive heavenly cycle star formation. Except for this, it was because the outer realm was the place closest to the origin of the universe. Compared to the great wide world, it was equivalent to having an additional layer. Therefore, although the heavenly tribulation in the extraterritorial void was powerful, it was also accompanied by rich rule power. It was an outstanding treasure to begin with. Once it succeeded in transcending the tribulation in such an environment, it would become even more powerful. However, not all supreme treasures had the ability to transcend tribulations in the outer realm. Even the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell were no exception. In Qin Shujian's eyes, the foundation of the two was still a little weaker. If they forcefully underwent the tribulation in the void outside the realm, it was very likely that they would attract a powerful heavenly tribulation and be destroyed in the end. However, Zhou Tian's star map did not have such a hidden danger. At this moment, lightning bolts fell one after another. The aftermath of the destruction caused Qin Shujian to retreat even further. The God Slayer in his sea of consciousness was also trembling. Emperor of Heaven, if Zhou Tian's star map succeeds in transcending the tribulation, what kind of supreme treasure will it be? He looked at the descending lightning tribulation with both fear and curiosity. Zhu Bing had an instinctive fear of heavenly tribulations. This was especially true for some powerful heavenly tribulations. The power caused by Zhou Tian's star map's tribulation gave the God-Slayer the illusion that he was transcending the tribulation himself. Even though he had broken through to the fifth tribulation Zhu Bing, he could not help but feel shocked. There was nothing he could do about it. If the fifth tribulation Zhu Bing was strong, then he was strong. But if he was not strong, then he was not that strong either. At the very least, the power of the fifth tribulation was only at the level of a middle three true immortal. It was not the top kind. On the contrary, Zhou Tian's star map's tribulation had steadily entered the upper three true immortals and was almost at the ninth tribulation immortal level. Not to mention the fifth tribulation. God Slayer was almost certain that the power of the sixth tribulation was absolutely not at this level. If he wanted to compare, he would have to transcend at least the seventh tribulation. In other words, once Zhou Tian's star map succeeded in transcending the tribulation, it was very likely that it would be comparable to the seventh tribulation Zhu Bing. In front of the seventh tribulation Zhu Bing, the fifth tribulation Zhu Bing was just a little brother. Qin Shujian's eyes stopped on Zhou Tian's star map. He did not move at all, but he gave an explanation. It is not easy to refine Zhou Tian's star map. If he succeeds in transcending the tribulation, he will at least be comparable to the top seventh tribulation Zhu Bing, or have a chance to enter the ranks of the eighth tribulation Zhu Bing. But it is too difficult to say that he is a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing. Unless the weapon emperor is reborn and personally refines it, it is harder than ascending to heaven to refine a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing. In the end, Qin Shujian let out a sigh. He had never seen anyone succeed in refining a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing. Even the weapon emperor. There was only a rumor that he had refined a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing, but Qin Shujian had no way to verify the actual situation. To refine a treasure of that level, the right time, right place, and right people were indispensable. He was confident that in this era, no one could surpass him in terms of forging, but he was not confident that he could refine a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing. It was not just a ninth tribulation Zhu Bing. Even if it was a seventh or eighth tribulation Zhu Bing, Qin Shujian was not confident in refining it. Zhou Tian's star map could have such a starting point because it was piled up with high-level materials. Not to mention other things. Just the bodies of the dozen or so star beasts were not comparable to other things. Not to mention that Qin Shujian also threw in hundreds of star cores. These treasures, even if they were not used to refine Zhou Tian's star map, the energy contained in them was enough to kill a few ninth tribulation immortals. So, with such a foundation, coupled with Qin Shujian's strong forging skills, it was natural that he could refine a treasure that was at least at the 7th tribulation Zhu Bing level. With a 7th tribulation foundation, there was hope for an 8th tribulation. God Slayer was shocked. He had overestimated Zhou Tian's star map, but now after hearing Qin Shujian's words, he realized that he was a frog in a well. For no reason. The god-slaying saber felt a faint sense of danger. He found that Qin Shujian had more and more treasures, and his status as a 5th tribulation Zhu Bing was also getting lower. He was originally the most powerful divine weapon in the other party's hands. But now, he was already overshadowed by the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell. Before long, there would be another Zhou Tian star map above his head. Thinking of this, God Slayer was under a lot of pressure. After all, the more treasures Qin Shujian had, the higher his status as a Zhu Bing would be. It was possible that he would fall out of favor one day. Once he fell out of favor, he would be banished to the cold palace, and he might never have a chance to see the light of day again. No, I can't go on like this. I have to transcend the 6th tribulation as soon as possible. As long as I succeed, at least I won't be inferior to that broken mirror and broken bell. God Slayer secretly made up his mind. Transcending the tribulation, he had to transcend the tribulation. If he didn't transcend the tribulation, he, as a 5th tribulation Zhu Bing, would have no status to speak of. For the time being, there was no way to compare with Zhou Tian's star map, but as long as he could suppress the heavenly mirror and the Tiandi bell, that would be pretty good. Second. At the very least, it was better than being ranked 4th. Chapter 840. Roar. His furious roar caused the void within 1,000,000 miles to be obliterated. A star beast that was 1,000,000 feet long floated above Zhou Tian's star map and threw a punch at the heavenly tribulation. In the next second, the star beast's body was shattered by the lightning. However, no blood flowed out of the shattered body. Starlight flickered on Zhou Tian's star map. The star beast's injuries also recovered in an instant. It's the 7th day! Qin Shujian counted the days with his fingers. Because the passage of time in the outer realm was difficult to detect, he could only determine it through deduction. Normally speaking, the heavenly tribulation of the birth of a supreme treasure would only last for a few days. But now that 7 days had passed, not only did the heavenly tribulation show no signs of weakening, but it also became stronger and stronger. The destructive aura had already made Qin Shujian's expression change slightly. Obviously, the power of the heavenly tribulation was already firmly above that of a 9th level immortal, and it was not comparable to an ordinary 9th level immortal. If the power of the heavenly tribulation can be promoted to the half-step Dao fruit level, then Zhou Tian's star map can be promoted to the level of an 8th level Zhu Bing. It's just that if the heavenly tribulation really reaches that level, it's another question whether I can successfully transcend it. Qin Shujian's expression kept changing. In his heart, he hoped that the heavenly tribulation would not be too powerful to prevent himself from falling short of success. At the same time, he hoped that the heavenly tribulation would become stronger so that the foundation of Zhou Tian's star map would be deeper. Two different thoughts kept fighting in his mind. Soon, these thoughts were dispelled by him. There was obviously no need to think so much now. If Zhou Tian's star map can't even withstand the heavenly tribulation of a half-step Dao fruit level, then even if the refinement is successful, it will be of limited help to me. In that case, it's better to fight with all my might. Qin Shujian's mind calmed down a little. He realized that his mentality after so many years was still inevitably stirred when it came to the critical moment. The reason for this was that Zhou Tian's star map was really important. Before he recovered the strength of the third era, this supreme treasure, it would allow him to have the strength to challenge those of a higher realm. It was also the trump card to deal with the 3 great clans and the demon abyss. Another few days passed. The power of the heavenly tribulation had already reached an unimaginable level. Suddenly, the void rippled. Qin Shijian's unmoving body suddenly tilted his head and looked in the direction of nothingness. His eyes were filled with a chilling coldness. "How dare you spy on me? You're courting death!" As the cold words came out, two beams of light from his eyes shattered the vacuum and instantly blasted out. Boom! Invisible forces clashed, causing the void to explode. Very soon, four familiar and strange figures appeared in Qin Shijian's sight. The Heavenly Emperor's strength is even stronger than before. Although his words were full of praise, the darkness in his eyes revealed an ominous aura. He was now fully aware of Qin Shijian's identity. The current Emperor of Heaven of the vast thousand worlds. He was also the founder of the new Heavenly Court 1,000,000 years after the ancient Heavenly Court was destroyed. While they were talking, out of the corner of his eyes, Bach also looked at Zhou Tian's star map, which was undergoing the heavenly tribulation. If it was said that when he saw Qin Shijian, he was only solemn, but when he saw this supreme treasure, his expression could no longer remain calm. A few days ago, there was a heavenly tribulation that covered hundreds of millions of miles. I was very curious about what caused it. Now it seems that such a supreme treasure has appeared. No wonder. Bach said no wonder twice in a row. The fear in his eyes dissipated and was replaced by an incomparable passion. A supreme treasure! This was a true supreme treasure! To be able to remain intact in the face of such a heavenly tribulation, what else could it be but a supreme treasure? Bach guessed that if he obtained this supreme treasure, he might even be able to unify the three great clans. Mo Xiaolue and the other demon emperors would also have to bow down to him. I don't want to attack you for the time being. If you know what's good for you, go back to where you came from. Otherwise, only death awaits you. Qin Shijian's eyes were cold and reserved, leaving only indifference. When Bach and the other demon emperors approached, he had already sensed their whereabouts. But what puzzled Qin Shijian was, there should only be 3 demon emperors in the 3 great clans. But now, there were a total of 4 demon emperors. While he was puzzled, Qin Shijian's gaze also fell on Yelvis. He immediately understood. He was not very familiar with Yelvis, but he had seen him a few times. The main thing was that during the war, there were only a few demon emperors in the 3 great clans. It was very difficult to be completely unfamiliar with him. But what Qin Shijian did not expect was, Yelvis could make a breakthrough at this juncture, allowing the 3 great clans to have another demon emperor. Bach smiled faintly and said, "Emperor of Heaven, you're exaggerating. When a supreme treasure appears, it should belong to the virtuous. How can you take it all for yourself? Why don't you leave this supreme treasure behind, and I will let you leave safely? You've already been defeated, yet you still dare to speak so boldly. Who gave you such confidence? Is it because there's a new demon emperor?" Qin Shijian sneered. He was no longer the same as before, and didn't put Bach in his eyes. While speaking, Qin Shijian glanced at Yelvis again. "Speaking of which, I really want to know, are the void demons from the 3 great clans or the 4 great clans?" Hearing this, the demon emperor's expressions remained the same, not wavering at all by his words. Seeing this, Qin Shijian also took out a jade talisman and crushed it with all his might. "It seems that you guys are unwilling to retreat. Since you don't want to retreat, then let's fight. Anyway, the Heavenly Court will definitely fight with your clans in the future. It doesn't matter if it's brought forward." As soon as he finished speaking, the God Slayer flew out from the sea of consciousness, and a shocking slaughter instantly erupted. The power of slaughter swept across, causing the expressions of Bach and the other demon emperors to change. Immediately after, Qin Shijian took a step forward, like a god descending to the mortal world, holding the God Slayer in one hand and slashing down. The blade aura was like a waterfall, covering the 4 demon emperors. "Kill!" The 4 demon emperors didn't hesitate at all and attacked at the same time. For long rivers of laws surged, and the power of darkness gathered together, instantly shattering the blade aura. Boom! The blade aura shattered, and the power of darkness didn't stop, blasting toward Qin Shijian. In response, Qin Shijian didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced, and the God-Slayer slashed out again, annihilating the aftermath. Today, I will slaughter the demon emperors for the blood sacrifice of Zhou Tian's star map that is about to be born. His face was cold, and surging killing intent rushed into the void. The void that was originally covered by the aftermath of the destruction was now completely replaced by a murderous aura. The demon emperors didn't reply, but the power of darkness erupted, completely turning the void into an extermination demon realm. The moment the demon realm was born, Qin Shijian had already stepped in alone, and his aura was like a rainbow, sharp and unstoppable. Chapter 841. Battle. It erupted very quickly. In just an instant, the 5 people were completely engaged in a fierce battle. As early as a few years ago, Qin Shijian was able to fight with 3 demon emperors with his own strength. Until now. After his strength had steadily improved, even if he faced 4 demon emperors at the same time, he would not be afraid at all. 5 terrifying bodies collided together, engulfing hundreds of millions of miles of the void. However, whether it was Qin Shijian or the demon emperors, they all consciously avoided the aftermath of the battle, avoiding Zhou Tian's star map. Because Zhou Tian's star map was undergoing tribulation, if there were any aftershocks, it might be mistaken by the rules that someone wanted to interfere with the tribulation. At that time, no one would be able to escape under the lock of the heavenly tribulation. After all, up until now, the power of the heavenly tribulation had reached a terrifying level. Even a top demon emperor like Bahadur felt his heart palpitate. If he really resisted and was targeted by the heavenly tribulation, that power, it was enough to make a demon emperor fall. On the other side, the Tiandi bell, which existed in the sky above the extraterritorial battlefield, began to ring automatically. The heavy sound of the bell contained an endless murderous aura. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the location of the Tiandi bell. Since the heavenly tribulation covered the extraterritorial battlefield, this was the second time the Tiandi bell rang. The first time, most people did not know what was going on. Now, they were equally confused. The Tiandi bell still did not stop ringing. The sound of the bell rang again and again, entering everyone's ears. Gradually, everyone felt that the silent blood and chi in their bodies were boiling under the sound of the bell. At this moment, after the 9th ring of the Tiandi bell, it suddenly stopped. An illusory figure walked out of the bell and held the Tiandi bell with one hand. Fight! This simple word was like a clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's ears. Fight! What fight? Some people were puzzled, while others were excited. All the immortals and gods of the heavenly court in the battlefield outside the realm were now looking at the figure holding the Tiandi bell. After the figure slowly disappeared, the gods' expressions were still grave. What does the Emperor of Heaven mean by this? Why does he want to fight? Some immortals and gods were still puzzled. Hearing this, the martial emperors of the 5 directions and the 4 divine battles remained silent. They exchanged glances with one another and saw the same message in each other's eyes. The Emperor of Heaven sent us a message to declare war on the 3 clans. It seems that something we don't know about has happened. But since the Emperor of Heaven has given the order, we don't need to hesitate. Emperor Zhao was the first to speak. He interpreted Qin Shijian's meaning. As the leader of the 5 imperial emperors, he was the one who gave the orders when the Emperor of Heaven was not around. Si Hanhai sneered. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. It's good to start a war. Let's kill all the demons in the void. From then on, the void outside the realm will be in the hands of the heavenly court. Ever since he became a demon, Si Hanhai's personality had completely changed. In the past, he did not like fighting, but now, he was extremely bloodthirsty. However, unlike cultivators who had become demons, Si Hanhai could control his heart, and would not easily fall into endless killing. These years, the great wide world had been peaceful, so Emperor Shiling did not have much of a chance to make a move. Therefore, Si Hanhai was also feeling uncomfortable. It was a good thing for him to be able to start a war now. Anyway, they would have to fight sooner or later. Even if they did not fight now, they would have to fight in a few months at most. Since that was the case, there was no need to delay. Emperor Zhao nodded and then looked at Xiao Chifeng and the others. This battle is very important. We can't delay it for even a moment. This battle must be focused on destroying the three clans. There's no need to hold back those heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Okay. Xiao Chifeng nodded. The other three didn't object to it either. Soldiers were trained for 1,000 days to be used in a moment. The heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals had been through strict training for so many years. In addition, those people had a good foundation, so their strength had increased by leaps and bounds. If it were not for the rules, those heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals could almost all become immortals. But even so, there were also some heavenly generals who broke through the barriers and broke through to become perfected immortals. It could be said that the current strength of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals was already terrifyingly powerful. Now that they were about to start a war with the three clans, it was a good time to pull these people out. Without going through a baptism of blood, how could there be a transformation? After the four war gods left, the 5 great imperial emperors passed down the order to start a war. The immortals and gods who were originally stationed in the heavenly court now walked out of their seclusion places and rushed to the extraterritorial battlefield. Half a day later, the powerhouses in the extraterritorial battlefield had more than doubled. Thousands of perfected immortals, even if they did not deliberately release their auras, caused the void to stagnate. The cultivators of the 10,000 clans and all the players were now rubbing their hands and rubbing their palms, waiting for the war to start. Especially the players. To them, every great battle was a great opportunity to level up. Although the probability of death was also very high, as long as they took advantage of this opportunity to snatch 1 or 2 heads or pick up some high-grade crystals, their levels would still increase. At this stage, the strength of the players was around the god martial arts realm. Up until now, there were very few players who had broken through to the celestial realm. The biggest reason was because of the restrictions of the cultivation method. Although the celestial cultivation method could be exchanged now, it was not that simple to reach the exchange threshold. Most people did not have the celestial cultivation method on them. Not to mention the celestial cultivation method. Some players could not even perfect the cultivation method of the god martial arts realm. Therefore, even if the power of the stars was rich and the cultivation environment had greatly improved, without the assistance of cultivation methods, the increase in strength of the players was very limited. And when the war started, the god martial arts realm would be cannon fodder. Experts of the celestial realm, and even the perfected immortal realm would fall. At that time, as long as they were lucky enough, they could casually pick up some celestial level or perfected immortal level items. For the players at this stage, it would be a turning point in their fate. This was also the reason why the players were so keen on the start of the war. There was really no other way. They could only rely on the war and see if they could make a comeback in one fell swoop. In the sky above the extraterritorial battlefield, the immortals and gods of the heavenly court gathered. Emperor Zhao turned his head to look at Qi Yang and the Thousand-Eye Emperor and said, "When the war starts, the heaven and earth passageway cannot be abandoned. In order to prevent the demons of the void from taking advantage of this opportunity to sneak into the upper-class world, the 2 of you will guard the extraterritorial battlefield and not let any demons of the void take advantage of this opportunity to enter. If any demons of the void sneak in, when the time comes, report to the Emperor of Heaven and punish them according to the laws of the heavens." We obeyed the Emperor's orders. Qi Yang and the Thousand-Eye Emperor's hearts trembled, and then they cupped their hands with solemn expressions. Seeing this, Emperor Zhao retracted his gaze and looked at the lonely void in front of him. He took the lead and took a step forward, his aura shaking the void. "Let's go. P.S. Everyone can follow the public account. White full fleeting time." Chapter 842. The location of the three clans was no longer a secret. Because the Heavenly Court had established the extraterritorial battlefield for many years. For so many years, the cultivators and players of the myriad clans had explored the extraterritorial void. Moreover, the land where the three clans were located was not an inconspicuous place, although there were many powerhouses in the clans' territories. However, no matter how many powerhouses there were, it was impossible to completely hide. Therefore, the location of the three clans had been obtained by the Heavenly Court a few years ago. However, because the time was not right, the Heavenly Court had not taken action. Now, Qin Shijian had issued an order. The powerhouses of the Heavenly Court naturally did not hesitate, and directly led the cultivators of the myriad clans to the three clans' territories. At this moment, an army of 10 billion walked out of the extraterritorial battlefield and headed toward the endless void. Leading the army, it was the many immortals and gods of the Heavenly Court. After traveling for a while, the immortals of the Heavenly Court suddenly stopped, causing the 10 billion troops behind them to also stop. Emperor Zhao looked at the void in front of him and said, "The territories of the three clans are not in the same location. In order to prevent other clans from coming over, I think we should split into 3 groups and take down the 3 clans directly. Isn't it too risky to split into 3 groups?" The Demon Emperor frowned. The strength of the 3 clans was not weak. If the Heavenly Court's forces were divided, the risk would increase a lot. Hearing this, Emperor Zhao immediately shook his head. How can there be no risk in war? However, the strength of the Heavenly Court is enough to deal with them. Since the Emperor of Heaven asked us to attack, needless to say, the Demon Emperor-level powerhouses can't take action. They should be fighting with the Emperor of Heaven somewhere. The only powerhouses left are those emperors. Among the 3 clans, the Baido clan is the strongest. The Yizo clan and the Maxiaro clan have both lost a demon emperor, so their strength is weakened. However, the Yizo clan is much weaker than the Maxiaro clan. Speaking of this, Emperor Zhao paused for a moment. After that, he continued, Imperial Monarch Eastern Sun and Imperial Monarch West Spirit are extremely strong. I presume that the 2 of you joining forces will be more than enough to deal with the Yizo clan. As for the Maxiaro clan, Yelvis was a peak demon emperor with extraordinary strength, and Longfellow was not weak either. Let the South Flame Emperor, the North Sea Emperor, and the North Pole War Gods work together to deal with them. As for the Baido clan, I, the Eastern Extreme War God, and the Western Extreme War God will head there. In addition, the Taiyin and Taiyang Star Lords will follow. The remaining gods of the Heavenly Court, as well as the Heavenly Soldiers and Heavenly Generals, will split into 3 groups, and each group will head to a clan. Emperor Zhao came up with a simple plan to divide his forces. It could be said that, among the 3 teams, the one led by him was the most powerful. Not only did it have the leaders of the 5 great imperial emperors, but it also had the leaders of the 4 great imperial gods. But at the same time, this team was dealing with the most powerful of the 3 great clans. Regarding this, no one else objected. Very soon, the combined team split up and directly turned from 1 to 3, heading straight for the territories of the 3 great clans. In the territory of the Luo clan of Maxia, Ively, who had been taught a lesson, kept a low profile. Mo Xiaoluo's blow had injured him badly, and he had yet to recover from it. In the main hall, Longfellow had an ominous premonition in his heart, and his brows were tightly knitted together. Strange, why do I suddenly have such a feeling? Is something going to happen? His expression was solemn, but he was also puzzled. Logically speaking, if something really happened, it was impossible for him to not have any news at all. Moreover, the Demon Emperor also did not send any orders. This was what Longfellow did not understand. Because something that could make him feel ominous was most likely related to the entire Mo Xiaoluo clan. If he could sense it, the Demon Emperor would definitely sense it too. But until now, the Demon Emperor had not sent any messages. This made Longfellow even more puzzled. Ively, who was in a state of meditation, also came out of his cultivation state. He looked at Longfellow and told him about his encounter. "Did you sense anything wrong? You sensed it too?" Longfellow raised his eyebrows and immediately understood that things were not that simple. If he was the only one who sensed it, it could be said that it was an illusion. But now that even Ively sensed it, things were not simple. "Something is going to happen," Longfellow said in a low voice. His expression was extremely solemn. Seeing this, Ively's expression was not good either. Could it be that the great thousand world is attacking? It's hard to say. Since there are warning signs, something bad is going to happen. Although I don't know why the Demon Emperor hasn't sent any messages yet. But thinking about it, the Demon Emperor might have been stopped. Longfellow could no longer sit still. He immediately stood up from his throne. In the next second, he transformed into a huge Dharma idol. It was so big that the entire continent's evil void demons could see it. "Everyone, prepare for battle. Demon kings who are in seclusion, come and see Ben Huang." The loud voice entered the ears of all the clansmen. Instantly, the continent started to shake. One after another, Demon King level powerhouses walked out of seclusion and gathered in the main hall. The Mo-Shalloa clan had existed for countless years. Unless the evil void demons died halfway, there were not many who had truly exhausted their lifespan. Because the lifespan of the evil void demons was really very long. At the Demon King level, they could even live for tens of millions of years without dying. After so many years, it was easy to imagine how many Demon Kings the Mo-Shalloa clan had accumulated. When the Demon Kings came into being, the intertwining darkness even covered the entire continent. Soon, incarnations appeared in the main hall one after another. "Greetings, Demon Emperor Longfellow!" When these Demon Kings saw Longfellow, they all bowed. But when they looked at Ively, their eyes were filled with bewilderment. Some of the Demon Kings knew Ively, while some were not. After all, he was only a Demon King in the past. For Demon Kings, it was normal for them not to know him. Seeing the puzzled eyes of the Demon Kings, Longfellow explained, "This is the new Demon Emperor Ively. In the previous battle, Troy fell. Now, Yelvis has reached the Demon Emperor realm. Therefore, Ively was personally ordered by the Demon Emperor to become one of the Demon Emperors in the clan." After a simple explanation, Longfellow said again, "This time, Ben Huang gathered all of you because there might be a greater thousand world attacking the clan. Now all of you should prepare for battle. At the same time, send out scouts to scout for information. No matter what, you must report any abnormalities that you find. If you miss anything, you can come and receive your punishment. Understood?" Chapter 843. The Southern Heavenly Gate. It was still heavily guarded. As the gateway to the Heavenly Court, it would not relax even during a war. The Heavenly Mirror, which had been quietly placed above the Southern Heavenly Gate, suddenly flew into the air, attracting the attention of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals guarding here. "The Heavenly Mirror is moving! Quick, go and report it immediately!" The expressions of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals suddenly changed. The Heavenly Mirror had been at the Southern Heavenly Gate for so long, and had never moved. Now that it suddenly moved, no one knew what had happened. Just as they sent someone to report, the Heavenly Mirror had turned into a stream of light and flew directly into the sky above the Heavenly Court. A faint light flashed on the surface of the mirror, and a majestic voice came from it. "Fight!" The word was like a clap of thunder, shaking the Heavenly Court. In the palace, Chu Kuangtu, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. Countless saber-chi burst out, crushing the void in front of him. The saber-chi appeared quickly and disappeared quickly. Then, he rose to his feet and strode out of the room. When he walked outside, he happened to see the Heavenly Mirror floating in the air. "Is the war going to start?" Chu Kuangtu looked up at the Heavenly Mirror. The mirror was showing the scene when Qin Shujian was confronting several demon emperors. After a few breaths, the image disappeared. Dali happened to walk out of the palace. He glanced at Chu Kuangtu indifferently and said calmly, "The Qin Emperor has sent a signal. The war is going to start." Obviously, the matter had reached a critical point. Otherwise, Qin Shujian would not send a signal. After all, they were all reincarnation Dao fruits and were on equal footing with the Qin Emperor. If it was not necessary, Qin Shujian would never bother them. Combined with the image in the heavenly mirror, it was not difficult for Dali to see that the Emperor of Heaven was already fighting with the demon emperors. Chu Kuangtu looked back at the image just now with a strange expression. 4 demon emperors. Has the Qin Emperor's strength improved again? In the last battle, the other party was almost killed when fighting 3 demon emperors. Looking at the situation now, he should be fighting against 4 demon emperors. The other party was really not afraid of being beaten to death by the 4 demon emperors before they arrived. The heaven-span mirror that was quietly floating in the air transformed into a stream of light and fled out of the heavenly court. "Go!" Chu Kuangtu said as he took a step forward and chased after the flowing light. Dali did not reply, but his movements were not slower than Chu Kuangtu's. The passageway between heaven and earth. Shi Yang and the Thousand Eye Emperor were guarding this place. Now that the heavenly court had started a war against the 3 great clans with all their might, they could not afford to lose the passageway of heaven and earth. No one could be sure that the void demons wouldn't bypass the army and directly attack the passageway. They were all prepared. If there was really an army of fiends from the void attacking them and they couldn't defend against it, they would directly destroy the passageway and close the greater thousand world temporarily. Since the passageway was closed, he could just open it again. But when it really came to that point, the foundation left behind in the outer region battlefield would be destroyed. Right at this moment, a streak of light flew over from the void. "Who is it?" Shi Yang, who was guarding the passageway of the great thousand world, suddenly opened his eyes, and a terrifying power erupted. However, before he could make a move, the streak of light had already taken the lead and escaped into the passageway of heaven and earth. The entire process happened in an instant. So fast. Shi Yang was shocked and stunned. What was this thing? How could it be so fast? Although he had not broken through to the middle 3 true immortals, his strength was already infinitely close. Even if a middle 3 true immortal were to face him, he was still confident that he could stop the other party. However, when facing the streak of light, Shi Yang found that he could not stop it in time. The speed was so fast that it could be said that he had never seen it before. It was too late to stop it. The streak of light disappeared into the passageway of heaven and earth. Just as Shi Yang was about to send a message to the Thousand Eye Emperor at the other passageway, 2 more streaks of light came at the same time. Whoosh! In an instant, the 2 streaks of light disappeared into the passageway. Shi Yang, who had just taken out the jade talisman and did not have time to send a message, was already stunned on the spot. "You've gone too far!" After waking up, the veins on Shi Yang's forehead were bulging. When the 3 streaks of light entered the passageway of heaven and earth, they did not stop at all. The other party simply did not take him seriously. However, apart from being furious, there was also doubt in Shi Yang's eyes. He could not understand when there was such an expert in the great wide world that even he could not stop them in time. With such strength, they should be at least a top 6 true immortal. Could it be? Shi Yang thought of something. In addition to the gods, there were also other mysterious experts in the heavenly court. Chu Kuangtu and Dali were one of them. However, even Chu Kuangtu and Dali were only 2 people. There were 3 streaks of light just now. Before Shi Yang could be puzzled for long, there was a message from the heavenly court. The heavenly mirror ran away? Shi Yang was stunned, but he immediately felt relieved. If it was the heavenly mirror that ran away, then the streak of light just now was most likely the heavenly mirror. Then, with the 2 mysterious experts, there were exactly 3 streaks of light. On the other side, the Thousand Eye Emperor, who was guarding the passageway of the extraterritorial battlefield, also had a similar experience as Shi Yang. The 3 streaks of light instantly flew away. It was not until those streaks of light completely disappeared from his sight that the Thousand-Eye Emperor finally reacted. There were only 3 question marks in the Thousand-Eye Emperor's mind now. Until now, he still did not know what was going on. In the endless void, the battle was still erupting. Qin Shujian held the Godslayer in his hand, and the blade energy shattered the void as he fought the 4 demon emperors endlessly. Until now, either side had a clear advantage in the battle. In this regard, Qin Shujian's expression was calm, and he still did not panic. However, the 4 demon emperors were shocked. Especially Bak, who was more shocked than anyone else. How could his strength be so much stronger? In the previous battle, although Qin Shujian was strong, he was not much stronger than him. If he had not used the verbal law at the crucial moment, coupled with the sneak attack of an expert, defeat was inevitable. But now, Bachdo suddenly realized something. Qin Shujian's strength had unknowingly become extremely terrifying. It was completely different from the last time. This time, there was an additional demon emperor on his side. But even so, there was no way to gain an advantage. Bak was shocked, and Yerwes was now under a lot of pressure. He, who had just broken through to the demon emperor realm, participated in a battle of this level. Even if he teamed up with other demon emperors, the pressure he was under was not small at all. The Vietnam War, Yerwes was even more shocked. It was hard for him to imagine that there would be someone so strong that they could not take him down even with several demon emperors working together. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.